ladies and germs, it's time again, once again, for the millionth time. I think we're numbering these episodes. We're getting up to, I think this is episode 51. And I keep putting these things of the Rage Select podcast. I keep putting these things. Nick, welcome to the show. I'm sorry, I'm a little. I just kind of want to jump in. I'm so excited. There's a lot of stuff to talk about this week. But hello, Nick. Welcome back. How have you been?
I've been doing well, very well, mate. Thanks for having me back.
Cool.
Just got rested from my holiday. Funny enough, I was actually in New York City. You know, first time I've gone to America when I'm not in Austin, Texas, to see you guys.
Oh yeah, because you live in a country where they pay people a living wage, and you have like the money and time off work to like actually go take a vacation somewhere, right?
Yeah, they give us quite a decent amount of paid leave. And I heard that in the States, you guys don't get as much paid leave. Is that true?
Oh, yes, it's very true. Okay, well, you know what? Here, we'll compare. When I was in Europe one time, the only time, like I go there all the time. Last weekend I took the Rage Select jet over to south of France. I was like, I'm in the mood for some wine, and everything in Austin is just shit. So, but I heard when I was over there that there were some places in Europe, some countries even, that had up to like 3 months of like paid time off that you could take for various different things.
Okay, first of all, I bet you those countries are all Mediterranean countries, and I bet those countries are in a recession right now.
I can't remember exactly what it was, but I seem to remember it being like one of those Northern European countries. But what from?
Oh, was it? Was it like Norway or Sweden?
I think it might have been something like that. I think it was when I was in Amsterdam. We were talking to them there, and I think they were talking about it might have been Sweden or Norway or somewhere like that. But okay, well, just for comparison's sake, how much like is it like government mandated time that like all employers have to give you off, or does it matter? Does it change from employer to employer?
I think that there is like a minimum requirement, and it's up to the employer how much to give after that. But this is all I know. Like in my job, I get like 2 weeks paid leave. 2 weeks?
So, is that, and that's per year?
Per year, yeah.
And is that split between vacation and sick time, or is that just like purely vacation?
Purely vacation.
Okay, wow. Because here, the way that most of the jobs that I've ever had, it tended to be like a week per year of vacation. Like back in the roaring 90s when I was doing tech support and stuff, it was when I worked over at Dell, it was a week of vacation and a week of sick time. And then it was one of those weird things where if you didn't use it by the end of the year, it was all gone. So invariably around Christmas time, everybody would just take like monstrous amounts of time off, which was cool because it meant that if you were willing to there was one Thanksgiving weekend, I worked at Dell, and they paid me double time and a half for Friday, Saturday, Sunday of the like Thanksgiving weekend or whatever. And I was just like, well, I don't care. My family was out of town. I don't give a shit. So I went and basically just sat in a chair for 3 days and then made like enough money to buy everybody really fantastic Christmas presents that year. Because I was just like, look at all this money.
Well, you must have been really popular. I'm surprised you didn't just like spend it on booze or like, I don't know, go out and get some strippers and cocaine.
Well, we're also talking about an oft referred to, but nobody's ever really known. Jeff, when he was in his 20s, is a very different person than Jeff who's in his 30s.
Right, okay. So you don't do the cocaine, but you still do the drinking.
Yeah. There was a time where I got all into Christmas, man. I used to be like Christmas master. Like I'd go out of my way to buy everybody like really expensive presents, and I'd wrap them in a really like artistic way and stuff like that. And then as the years went on, it just kind of got to this point where I was like, I don't have time. I have to just, I hate shopping in general. I hate shopping for Christmas, and there used to be a time where I got a real kick out of doing that sort of thing. And I don't know. I guess over time it just kind of went away. But
we also got to think about like the internet now. Like you just shop online. You don't even have to get out the house.
Yeah, in fact, you don't even have to do shit, because last year I did a search like in November. I went onto the internet and I was like, unique Christmas gifts, and it was like you can find 100 blogs that were just full of like, get this crazy ass thing for people, and here it is for $20, and Amazon will deliver it to you, and boom, 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 boom. Like, you could just run Christmas on autopilot now and have somebody else pick out all the crazy stuff where people are like, wow, it's a really thoughtful gift. And you're just like, yeah. I'm awesome. Well, what did you do when you were in New York, Nick?
I did all the touristy stuff. I mean, like, I had to go visit Little Italy since I'm obsessed with, Godfather movies and all that.
Okay.
Saw the Statue of Liberty. I saw the Empire State Building. And I also saw the 9/11 Memorial, which I had no idea what it was going to be until I actually saw it. It's, like, amazing, dude. Mm-hmm. Like, it's... have you seen pictures of it, what it looks like?
No, I don't think so. I think I saw some news stories when they were building it, but I don't think I've ever actually like looked at a picture of it.
Well, okay. Well, at the base of where the Twin Towers were, there's like a big pit that leads down into this like it's like big hole in the ground, but they've covered it with like black marble, and they turn it into a waterfall, like both of where the Twin Towers used to be. And on the outline, they got the names of all the people who died in the 9/11 attacks, and also in the early 90s attacks as well. And it was really powerful, I thought. And apparently it's like the largest man-made waterfalls in the Americas. So
wow.
It was really breathtaking. So that was definitely one of the highlights of visiting New York City.
All right. I've been obsessed recently with I've been watching fucking Kitchen Nightmares with Gordon Ramsay because I'm not very imaginative, but I was looking yesterday at like when you're watching this stuff for long enough. I was actually watching. He did this show where he did a bunch of like, who's the best restaurant in Britain or whatever, and so like it's food porn is what it is. It's straight food pornography. You've got all these places that are just making like this just fantastic looking food, and so you start looking around, and I was like, all right, well, is there a restaurant with a Michelin star in Austin? No, there is not. Absolutely not. Like they're like, you look at them and they're almost all directly in New York City. So did you get a chance to do any kind of like, did you do like the super fine dining experience in New York? Did you get like muscle your way into a place and get like a tiny little 1-inch square of food that was the best thing you've ever tasted in your life?
I'll be honest with you. I wasn't too impressed with the food in New York City. I did go to quite a few restaurants, but I think the food in London is actually way better. And it would just hear me out first. I'm not slagging off you Americans or anything. So in London, you got all these different cultures bringing in their food, like, and it's a lot more recent. Whereas the staple diet, like the European American diet, has truly become more American over time. Whereas London, it's still quite recent, so you got all of these different flavors. But there was one restaurant that I definitely recommend anyone to visit. It's a restaurant called Kafana, which is in Manhattan, I think. And it's like a Bosnian, Serbian restaurant. And they got like these burgers that have like ham and cheese inside it.
What?
And like, but you don't have a bun. So you cut into the burger meat itself, and the cheese just like oozes out and like goes into the plate, and it's fucking awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty phenomenal. Did you get the New York pizza? A New York pizza?
Yeah, I did try the New York pizza. Very cheesy, I gotta say. But I'll say this: when I got back to London, the first thing I think I had was a salad, because after like 10 days of being in New York City and just having like American food, I just needed to have something fucking healthy. So, I know.
Like, can I get a salad, please? And they're like, hey, forget about it. No, there's no salad here.
No, man. As soon as I got home, it was like, okay, we're going to have like avocados. I'm going to have like rocket salad. I'm going to put all this shit in. I just kind of made it myself to make it as healthy as possible. Now, don't get me wrong. There was loads of like good restaurants in New York, but I passed them up because I could have the same thing in London. Like, the traditional Japanese sushi restaurants that's really popular in Williamsburg, like in Bedford Avenue, like which is hipster central. So I wanted to have like real American food, stuff that you cannot get anywhere else but the United States.
Oh man, you know what? I'm probably a little biased here, but I'd be willing to bet that if like, it's funny when you say real American food, the first thing that comes to my mind is giant slabs of barbecue. Because I don't know, I've always thought that just kind of like the just like your diner hamburger type of stuff. I mean, it's all right and everything, but if I try to think of like what I would like, if somebody came here from another country and I wanted to give them something that they definitely couldn't get elsewhere, it would probably be barbecue. It'd probably be Texas barbecue because that's now I want to.
You're forgetting about meatloaf, man. The meatloaf you guys make is fucking phenomenal.
Oh yeah,
it's so awesome. And the briskets, like I can't find brisket in the UK that matches what it's like in the States. Like there's this one place called Rudy's in Austin, and the brisket is like so moist it like melts in your mouth just by placing it on your tongue. It's gorgeous. It's like melted gold or something.
That's because they cut like directly through the giant layer of fat that you're supposed to cut off of the brisket before you eat it, and then they they call it it's the crown, I believe. That's what they said, because I would go in there and be like, I would actually order, I'd say, like, can I get like half lean, half crown? Because when they do the super fatty part, they just cut right through this big layer of fat that, like, most of the time, most normal human beings would cut that off because it's just a giant layer of cow fat on top of the meat. But here we're just like, no, dude, no, I want all that. I just want that. I want you to cut the fat off and put that on a plate. And with some potato salad, with something
fried.
I
don't care if it's unhealthy. I knew it was unhealthy when I walked into the place.
Right.
Because their fucking salad section is like pickles and onions. And that's fucking it. Like there's no other salad to speak of in Rudy's Barbecue Shack.
That's what coleslaw is for, Nick. That's what salad is in Texas. It's you take salad and then you put a lot of mayonnaise into it. That's how you're going to get a salad here.
Coleslaw and sweet corn does not count as a vegetable substitute.
You crazy Europeans with your ideas about vegetables. Come on. Everybody knows that if you're going to have a vegetable in the United States, you need to either deep fry it, cover it in cheese, or put like mayo just mixed into it. Just take bell peppers.
I thought you Americans didn't like mayo. I thought there was like you were more into ketchup. Like it's more of a European thing to like mayo.
Oh, well, yeah, I do. I mean, I do, but then I don't know. I don't know. I dig on the mayo, but whatever. I mean, I kind of got over ketchup a long time ago, and I think that part of it was just because, like when you look at like the three things that you put on a burger, right? You just mustard, mayo, ketchup. Usually two of them or one of them. It kind of just depends. Those are like your standard three toppings, right? Like mustard, I love me some mustard. It's nice, just super tangy, whatever. Mayo, it's creamy. It's very it's savory and junk. I'm now doing Gordon Ramsay, by the way. I've just been mainlining Kitchen Nightmares and just like, you need to do fresh ingredients with simple flavor. But ketchup has always been like, I liked it when I was younger, but now it's just, I don't like how sweet it is. It just always tastes like super, super sweet. Whereas mayo's like light, so it just kind of goes with whatever like sandwich you're putting it on. And mustard has like that tanginess that can kind of set off like the meat or whatever. Ketchup is just too sweet. I don't put it on my fries. I don't really do it at all. The only ketchup that I really dig on is the stuff from Whataburger, and it's because it's got like pepper and spice and stuff in it. Like it's not just nasty sweet Heinz ketchup. But I don't know. Wow,
you really do eat unhealthy if you eat Whataburger, man. I always felt sick eating at Whataburger. I don't know what it is, but like I think we went there because it's like open 24 hours a day in Austin.
Yeah, it's pretty traditional drunk food. This is actually good. This is a good segue into two different things, and then we'll go into the news from here. So I was the biggest proponent of Whataburger in the world. I'd go to Whataburger because it used to be that I would go out and I would drink, and then we would go somewhere and we would get breakfast, right? We would go to Magnolia or Kirby Lane or IHOP or just somewhere to get eggs and bacon and stuff, right? Because I want to get something to eat after we're done drinking to soak it up, hopefully avoid the hangover. And I used to go to Whataburger all the time and get their breakfast, and then I started going there, and one day I got a burger and fries instead of breakfast, and like that soaked up the alcohol in my system so much better than just breakfast food, than just eggs and bacon, right?
Yeah.
So I ate there religiously for a long time, and then just recently there's this new burger place that opened up down the road from where I live, and they're a local Austin chain, and they just do like these, just like they're small, like people. I tend to feel like sometimes people tend to forget, Nick, that like way back in the old days, I'm going back on one of my Jeff Old Man rants. But when I was a kid, like the little burgers, like just hamburger, cheeseburger that you got at McDonald's, like way back in the olden days when McDonald's wasn't what it is right now.
You mean the tiny little ones that like for $1 or something? Right,
just those little ones. It's like, the regular sized hamburger that you would get at McDonald's, just like if you went in there and you're like, give me a hamburger. It was a small burger. It was very small. It wasn't a triple with cheese and bacon, coming off of it or whatever. But what I came to find out is going to this P. Terry's place is that they have a burger. It's just a little bit bigger than that. It's a fairly reasonable sized amount of food for a human being, and then they give you a whole bunch of fries that aren't all cooked in, meat fat. So I started going to this place because it's the only place in town that I could find where it's a fast food place with a drive-through where you get a burger and fries for like $4, which in this day and age is like unheard of. You go to Wendy's and try to get like just a regular burger and an order of fries there, and it's like $6.25 or something like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, I'm running Rage Select. I got to keep this shit on a budget, right? So I'm eating these $4 hamburgers. And what happened was that over time, I was eating these just all the time. I mean, I was eating them once a day, basically. And two things started to happen. One, the next time that I went to Whataburger and I got a burger and fries, I felt sick after I ate them.
I know, right? I mean, like, when I was out with you guys and we went to Whataburger, first of all, I felt depressed because we're all like hungover. And we're at this place. We're not talking to each other. We're just eating.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling sick because I'm not used to the Whataburger. It's something about like specific types of junk food. If you've never had it before, you feel like rotten to the belly and stuff. Or if you like skip doing McDonald's and Big Burger, or like for like months and months, and then return to it, you'll feel that way.
Yeah, no, and I was going to say that is exactly what happened to me when I went to Europe, right? So I was in Europe for 3 months, and our home base was in Amsterdam, but then we went all over the place. And the thing is that when we were in Amsterdam, where we'd spent most of our time, it's like for lunch we were eating. We would go down to this the local store on the corner, and we'd pick up like these little. It was like lamb, but cut as like a kind of a lunch meat style type of thing, right? It was this kind of pinkish lunch meat, but it was lamb. So we just make these little sandwiches. You get a loaf of bread. And they had their bread from somewhere. It was a nice little sandwich. Eat those for lunch, and then we would eat a lot of like. We're in Amsterdam. We ate a lot of Indonesian food, and we were in various places. I was in Scotland. I'd eat a lot of meat pies and stuff like that. But I found it was weird because I was over there for 3 months, and then I came back to the U.S. and I started going to all the places that I used to go to. And suddenly, everything that I ate in the United States made me want to throw up. And
it's your body screaming at you, dude, to stop.
Yeah.
Just fucking stop.
That's what I realized, is that I was like, is IHOP, any fast food, any place that was that is a chain, basically. Any single place in the United States that was a chain. Suddenly, it was like I was having this adverse allergic reaction. And it was this moment of clarity and revelation in my brain where I went like, it's exactly what you said. It's just like, you've been eating like a human being for 3 months, and your body has reset to like not consuming, brisket and just hash browns and these huge greasy omelets and bacon like 24 hours a day. And so now when you try to eat this, your body's like, no, wait, what happened to those wonderful sandwiches with all the vegetables on them?
Is it like detoxing, you think? Is that what your body does when you skip out on all these fast food chains?
Well, the thing is that when I went to Europe and I was there, we were walking everywhere. We were eating these, because in Europe at the time, and probably still even so today, I marveled at like, when I first got there, it was weird because I would order something, right? And they would give me a plate of food. And I would just be like, is this for a baby? This is not enough food for a human being.
Is that it? Is that it? Because when I'm in the States, I'm like, can I just have some nachos, please? And nachos, you get in England, it's like a tiny little plate. Mm-hmm. It's more of like an appetizer before you start the main meal. It's fucking massive.
Sure.
Especially in Texas. Like, the portions in Austin are ridiculous.
Yep.
Like, after I have the nachos, I'm like, I can't have my main course now. Like, I'm screwed. This will keep me going until tomorrow. I swear to God, it's that massive.
So when I was over there, it was like, yeah, I was walking all over the place. We walked, everywhere. We were backpacking, so we just walked all over the place. We're eating very well. And, like, I lost all this weight. I felt way better. And then I came back home and, like, all my friends were like, oh, my God, I found this new place where you could get a whole chicken for, like, $2. And I'm just like, I don't know if I can eat a whole chicken anymore. And they're like, no, come on, man. Just go. Come on. We'll get you through this. We'll get you back to where you were. And they messed you up in Europe. But come on, come over here, Roll. Sit down.
You're just like, I don't want to go back to the way I was. I feel way happier now. Healthy. I do my yoga and I go running. I feel fantastic.
But, eventually the idea, or, just it's so fucking seductive, food here, because they're giving you all of this food and it's all got so much like sugar and grease and stuff in it, and your body intrinsically loves sugar and grease. You're as a mammal, your body just screams more of that. I want more. Like, as a mammal, you have this instinctive reaction that when you're eating something that's like high fat or high sugar, your body goes, no, keep whatever that is. I want you to get all of it in here, as much of it as possible, because your body as a mammal is trying to keep you from dying. And so more sugar and fat means that you don't have to find food again for longer. Like, I don't know. It's a whole big thing. Once I actually read a book where they talked about that response from mammals, from humans, as like the reason that you like sugary drinks is because your body likes sugar, because sugar is energy that will keep you going, and so your body will keep telling you to drink sugary drinks. It kind of lost a little bit of its spell on me, because I was just like, I hate the idea of being run by like these primitive caveman instincts. So finally, I was just like, no, fuck it. I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want to. Fuck you, body.
No, I think your body is more like an abused housewife, because she was warning you, dude, not to eat. She's like, this is bad for you. I'm going to make you feel sick. But then you just ignore her and carry on eating anyway. And she's like, oh, well, okay, well, he's nice to me sometimes, I'm not going to call the police, I swear.
I like the fact that my pancreas is like, I could change him. You don't know him like I do. He's really... But what's funny, though, is that this local place with the burgers, right, that I started eating at, is I was just eating at this place because it was cheap. And I was getting a hamburger instead of a cheeseburger because it was like 25 cents cheaper. I wasn't getting, I don't drink soda, so I wasn't getting any soda. I was just hamburger and fries. And after a while, Jason posted about this today online, where he's real salty about it, because he was like, because suddenly people they were like, Jeff, are you losing weight? And I was like, I don't think so. I'm eating hamburgers all the time. And then I went online and I looked up like what the caloric information is for like a reasonable human-sized hamburger and a regular portion of fries. And like, it turns out that I was eating, the caloric intake that I had was for somebody that weighed a lot less than me. And yeah, I was losing weight just because I was eating regular human portions of food and not triple baconators every day.
Wow, you should run like a weight loss program or something on YouTube. Like how to literally eat whatever you want and still lose weight.
Yeah, well,
you just show them this restaurant and you just... without you like going to the gym or anything like that, you just eat these burgers and you're just losing weight.
The thing that drove Jason bonkers is like people, because we did a video last week where people saw us in person. So people were like, wow, Jeff, you slimped up. And Jason was like, yeah, his secret is that he eats hamburgers all the time. Fucking asshole. And I'm just like, it's not like I studied and came up with the hamburger method or anything. I was just eating hamburgers and then this happened. But one more quick story, and then we're going to get on to the news because we're running a little bit long here.
Okay.
And I got to tell this because it's crazy. So instead of going to Whataburger, I now tend to go to Jim's, which is this like terrible greasy spoon restaurant that's open 24 hours. And they've got a wonderful thing that I get for breakfast every time after I've been drinking. That's the pork chop breakfast. It's 2 pork chops and eggs and hash browns, some toast. That's it. And that's it.
That sounds like a lot.
Well, I generally tend to, that's the other problem with me, is that I'll eat that minuscule burger at like 2 in the afternoon, and then I don't eat again until after I've been at the bar all night at like 3 o'clock in the morning. So I'm usually ravenously hungry by that point.
Fair dues.
But so last time I went there with Brian Salisbury from over at One of Us and Fungus Monkey, who runs, who built our site for us. And we were at Jim's, and so I had to go to the bathroom. So I go to the bathroom, and I'm in the bathroom. Some dude is in the stall. It's just a normal bathroom, sink, 2 urinals, stall. Excuse me. Some dude's in the stall, throwing up like crazy. Just, a couple of his friends came in while I was peeing. They were just like, hey, are you okay? He's like, I'm fine, man. I'm like, okay, no biggie. You see that happen all the time. The Jim's is a pretty popular after you've been to the bar destination. So I go back, have my breakfast. I get done with my breakfast. I'm going to go to the bathroom one more time before I leave. So I go into the bathroom, and it was like I've got a theory. I think that dude that was throwing up was the Hulk, and that he got tired of his friends coming in and asking him if he was okay. Because I go over to the bathroom, and the door's propped open with this trash can, right? And I go in, and the door to the stall is hanging on by one hinge now. Like it's been broken off of one of its hinges. The paper towel dispenser is like cracked off the wall to the left. The faucet on the sink is like permanently running and won't stop. And the best part, and I don't know how this happened, Nick. I went in there. I've never seen this before in my life. One of the urinals had been ripped out of the wall and was sitting on the floor of the bathroom. Like the entire urinal, and it wasn't, it was just the pod, right? It wasn't the one that goes all the way down to the ground, but it was out of the wall and laying on the ground. And I was like, what the fuck happened in here? Like, did somebody come in here and have the raid fight in this bathroom? Like, what the shit, man?
I could just imagine you just stunned. Like, you don't even know. Did you get like Fungus Monkey to take a look in the bathroom? It's like, check this shit out.
I tried. I came out. I went over to both of them, and I was like, dude, you have to go in there. The urinal's on the floor, and they were both like, it's all right, Jeff. I don't want to go look at what you saw in the bathroom. And I'm like, no, you got to believe me, man. This is fucking incredible. I've never seen anything like this before. They're like, yeah. You went to the bathroom. It was incredible. We're all going to go home now. Whatever. I was just like, oh.
I bet they were like almost comatose and like really wasted. And they thought you were just talking about the shit you just made in the toilet. It's like, I don't want to see it, Jeff. Like, I'm sure it's awesome and all that.
God, I keep forgetting. Like, I'm just so not used to realizing in this particular day and age that I have a camera in my pocket. I should have pulled my freaking phone out and taken a picture of the wreckage in that bathroom because
you see, Jeff, it's bastards like you. That's the reason why we don't have pictures of Bigfoot. Okay? Because people like you keep forgetting they have a phone in their pockets and they could just take a picture.
I don't know. Every time I take a picture with my phone, it looks kind of shitty. So I don't know. I need a new phone real bad, but whatever. I've talked about that. But you know what? We've jabbered on for a long time. I got a feeling this is going to be a long one today. So let's get into the news. And the first news story, Nick, is one that everybody, I feel like every single person in the entire world has been saying this since it happened. As of coming on June 9th, the Xbox One is going to be rebundled without the Kinect and marked down to $400 instead of $349 or instead of $499. So they're putting out a version of it that's on the same price scale as the PlayStation 4, but it doesn't come with the Kinect. And I feel like the general response that I can smell it. I can feel it from the internet right now is, yeah, good, finally. Like, we've been saying this since the moment that you announced this, since E3 last year when you guys said, it's going to be $500, it's going to have a Kinect built in, and then Sony came out and said, ours is going to be $400, that they should have just come, that Don Matrick should have come out onto the stage on the Sony conference and go like, ha, just kidding, that was a funny joke, right, guys? We're offering 2 bundles, and one of them is $500 with the Kinect, and one of them is $400 without the Kinect. We got you. I bet you guys thought that we were actually going to do that, but we're not. So what do you think?
Just imagine people probably saying it took you guys long enough. That's all I could say.
Yeah.
But what about the people who already bought the Xbox? I'm pretty sure they're a little pissed that they paid a wee bit more for it than what it was eventually going to be.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. I mean, I don't, but then idea of buying consoles and video games has become very weird. But I kind of feel though that like part of it is a little, we've seen this happen. We saw this happen with the Wii U, right? Is they had the Wii U out and they price dropped it like I think before even a year was out. I don't know. I mean, you still have.
I mean, how much is that Kinect really worth? Is it worth the extra $100?
Well, what are you talking about? Like materials wise? Are you talking about like experience wise, or because
you said that $100 was knocked off, right?
Yeah, for
Xbox on its own. So I don't think many people actually want the Kinect. So the fact that $100 is knocked off without the Kinect, really pissed people off, especially if it was me. Because, I only bought the thing just to have the Xbox. I couldn't give two shits about the Kinect. It's it's an accessory. Do you really need it? No. Are you going to complain about having it around? Not really.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's not a priority, basically.
To put it, I guess to put it in perspective, the PlayStation 4's internal hardware is actually slightly faster than the Xbox One, and they're selling it at $400. So if they can do that, then that Kinect it's a pretty powerful piece. It's not like some next gen fucking cutting edge shit or whatever, but it does have a couple of cameras in it. It's got the mic. It's got the various different things that are added onto it. I think that Sony, let me just look it up. Sony does have the camera for the PS4, but they don't bundle that in with it. I just wonder if this means $60 for the PlayStation 4 camera. I just wonder if this finally means that the Kinect is dead, because there was a case to be made when every single Xbox One was going to have a Kinect, where you could say that as a game developer, you could say to a game developer, well, you should put some Kinect functionality in here because that everybody who has an Xbox One is going to have a Kinect, as opposed to the 360 where, Jason had a Kinect for some reason, but I didn't have one. Most of the people that I know with Xboxes didn't go out and buy it when it was a separate peripheral because there just wasn't anything that was interesting for it. But if there was ever a way to make the Kinect interesting, it would have been having the ability for a developer to know that if they put functionality if they spend the development time and money to put Kinect functionality into their game, that people are actually going to use it. But I feel like that's just been stepping back a little bit at a time, because at first it was the Kinect has to be plugged in order for the console to even boot up, and then they were like, no, that's crazy, and now they're just taking it away entirely. So, I don't know, Nick. You've never had? Have you ever owned one of the Xboxes? Original Xbox, is that the one? Or?
No. I was always a PlayStation fan ever since PS1.
So from an outsider, not having any of these from an outsider perspective, do you think, would this make you any more or less inclined to buy an Xbox One?
No, not really.
No?
I'll tell you the biggest reason for me for getting PlayStation was just getting Metal Gear Solid. Mm-hmm. I guess now that it's cheaper, or actually the same price, I will still get the PlayStation because the exclusives that came out for PlayStation were always more enjoyable for me. I'm trying to think of Xbox exclusives that I would consider really be wanting to play. Mm-hmm. One is that Roman game, Rise, and the other one was Halo.
Right.
That's really about it. Whereas you got the Naughty Dog games with PlayStation, and until now it was always Metal Gear Solid. But I think they're making the new Metal Gear Solid game for the Xbox as well, right?
Pretty sure. Ground Zeroes came out on the Xbox One as well as the PS4. Now, that was kind of weird because on the Xbox One, I'm not really super into doing the whole pixel counting type of thing. People do real in-depth look at the graphical fidelity of it on various consoles, but there were some reports that I saw that seemed to say that there was a noticeable difference on the PS4 as opposed to the Xbox One hardware for Ground Zeroes. But yeah, I feel like I god damn wish that we were going to E3 this year, because I really feel like it's going to be an exciting one this year, because with the PS4 and the Xbox One now at a comparable price point, they're going to have to sell it on console exclusives. So it's going to be really interesting to see what exclusives they're going to try to get out there to sell their consoles, because at this point, I mean, it just seems like, I don't know. I mean, the Xbox One, all that TV stuff doesn't mean shit to people that I know that are just big gamers. You know, they
like the Halo TV series.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe, but I mean, is that worth paying $400? I mean, there was a story last week that said that they're in talks to put that on Showtime, that they're going to air it both on the Xbox One and on Showtime. And last week, Jason and I were sitting here slapping ourselves in the face, going like, "Why the fuck would you give away that kind of exclusive content to Showtime? Why not keep it on the place? You know, use it as a driving force to try to sell your system instead of being like, well, or you could watch it on Showtime, not just on Showtime, but like a day earlier on Showtime than on the Xbox One." I was like, well,
what? That's even dumber.
Yeah.
It should be on the Xbox One like at least a day early for it appearing on Showtime.
Yeah. I don't understand. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. You know, there's a new guy running the games division over at Microsoft. You know, Matrick left, and there was a shakeup. I can't remember the new guy's name. There's a new guy who's a much more gaming focused kind of guy running the Xbox One division, the whole Xbox division now. So this will be a really interesting time at E3 to see, like, does Sony, you know, is Sony just going to trot out? Because if Sony just gets up there and trots out, like if they pull a Nintendo, right? If they just trot up there, they're just like, here's new Ratchet and Clank, here's new Uncharted, here's a new, here's new Little Big Planet for the PlayStation 4. Like, here's every one of the things that we already have, like 3 or 4 iterations of that are console exclusives on the PlayStation 3, on the PlayStation 4. Like, you know, I can get why they would do that, but it's just not really very exciting to me. I mean, of course there's going to be a God of War on the PlayStation 4. Of course there's going to be an Uncharted. Of course there's going to be these things. What I want to see is some crazy new shit, because I'm all about crazy new shit. So,
do you remember that one game that was cancelled where it was just like you talking to it was through the Kinect, I think, where you were just talking to like a young boy. I don't know if you ever saw it. Like, it was an E3 presentation. I think it was called Milo or something.
Peter Molyneux.
Was that it?
Yeah. Well, no. It was called Milo, but it was Peter Molyneux. He did. Yeah, it was a tech demo for the Kinect. It was Peter Molyneux and Lionhead Studios that did that.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that was a genius idea. Like, you know, having a character that could actually react to what you're saying. And, you know, I thought that would, when I first saw that, I thought that was what the Kinect would be, like a door to just exploring new ways of, you know, interaction with video games.
Yep.
And it just kind of fizzled away. And it's just been used as a kind of a cheap gimmick.
Yeah, I mean, once again, that comes back to what I said of, like, you know, it's the thing that people, you know, a lot of people are like, there aren't any good games for the Kinect, and you go, of course there are no good games for the Kinect. Like, if you were pick one, right? If you were Treyarch, right? You're making a Call of Duty game, and you're like, I've got a 2-year development cycle to put out one of the biggest and most popular game franchises in the entire world. Are you really going to spend time to put in features for this piece of hardware that, like, let's be really, really, really generous, right? Let's say that 50% of the people, and I'm talking pre-Xbox One here. Let's say we're talking Xbox 360, PS3, and PC, and I'm going to be really super generous. 50% of 1/3 of your audience is going to have. Like, your best possible scenario is that half the people who have a 360 have a Kinect and are going to use it. So now you've got the other half of your 360, all the PS3, and all of the PC people who are going to be buying this game who are just never going to see that whatever that thing is that you're going to put in, where squad tactics or change your loadout on the fly or call in a drone strike or whatever it is, right? Like, why would you waste time developing for that peripheral when hardly anybody's going to see it, you know, or just a small number of people are going to see it? So I don't know. I think it's a good move for them. I think that no matter what they did, they just had to get on the same price point as a PS4, because there are plenty of people who aren't all up into gaming news and stuff like this, who they're just going to go out to buy one of these and be like, this one is $100 more. I'm going to get the one that's cheaper. So
yeah. I'm personally I'm quite happy about the price change, even though I'm loyal to the PlayStation, and simply because they're competing with each other, and that inspires innovation and changing the way that they make their games. So we're always bound to see more new stuff than if it was just like one big gaming company and they just owned everything. Then they wouldn't have any reason to make anything new and exciting.
Yeah. Well, moving on to other cool stuff that Microsoft is doing. Coming in June, Xbox, and I don't know if you know this, Nick. This may be, since you're not an Xbox kind of guy, this may be a bit of a shock to you, but so in order to use services like Netflix or HBO Go or things like that on the current Microsoft setup, you have to have an Xbox Gold account. So you have to be paying the $49 a year or whatever Gold membership to be able to access. Like if you have an Xbox 360 and you want to watch Netflix, you have to have a Gold subscription right now. Well, they're finally dropping that. Like, because for a long time now, PlayStation has been, just said, yeah, we don't give a shit, just do whatever. Like, you want to watch Crackle? Do it. We don't care. You don't have to buy a subscription or whatever. So it looks like they are. It looks like they're dropping that requirements for a lot of this stuff. And my only comment on this is that, like, why the hell is it taking this long? Why is it taking so long to freaking drop that requirement? Because it seems like, on the PS3 and PS4, I was surprised when I loaded up Netflix the other day and my Xbox One was like, you got to sign in. You got to sign into your account in order to be able to do this because you have to have a Gold account to watch this stuff. It just seems like a really old way of thinking, and I'm glad that they're finally updating it. I don't know.
Sounds like they're feeling desperate, to be honest. Like they're seeing how well the PlayStation is doing, are like, oh shit, we got competition now.
I don't know.
We got to step up our game.
I think that they may have been able to ignore it if it was just Xbox versus PlayStation 3, but like, Jesus, there's a lot of ways to get Netflix onto your TV now. There's a $40 Chromecast. There's Roku boxes. Amazon just announced a streaming console that you could buy for like $99 or something like that. And none of these particular services, at least as far as I know it's not for PlayStation, not for Chromecast. I doubt Roku does it, but there's a few other ones. Like none of them want you to pay some kind of subscription fee for the privilege of watching the content on the thing that you pay the subscription fee for. So I look at it as not so much desperation, it's just like finally catching up to the way that things are in the world instead of continuing to fleece their customers in order to be able to watch Netflix. Like I watch Netflix on my phone right now. I watch Netflix on. I feel like every device, this cup of coffee that I've got will run Netflix if I want to install the app on it. Like, why would you ever? Can you imagine if you bought an Xbox 360? You were like, oh, this is the cheap one. I'm going to buy this. I'm just going to watch Netflix on it. And then you brought it up, and they were like, hey, in order to watch Netflix, you need to give us $49 more every year. I would take that thing back, and I would get a different console. But I don't know. It feels like they've been trying. Like I feel like Sony's been eating their lunch a little bit with the whole games, the free games on the PlayStation Plus or the PlayStation Plus, like free games every month type of thing. And they've got their games with gold that they're doing on the Xbox. They've just been a little bit slower getting into it, which seems so weird to me because it's just the more I see this generation, the more it feels like I'm just seeing an exact reversal from the previous generation, right? The last time Sony was just like, well, we're Sony. We're the best. Fuck you. It's gold-plated, costs $1 million. It doesn't do shit, and you're going to buy it. You're going to like it, too. And everybody's just like, no. And at this time, Xbox kind of was doing the same thing. They were like, oh, of course it's got a Kinect. You're going to buy the Kinect. Everybody was just like, we don't like the Kinect. They're like, no. You'll like the Kinect. Trust me, you like the Kinect.
It's kind of like every war when the general is leading the battle is an expert in the last war he fought, not in the current one. And then they have to go through the whole process of like adapting to this new change.
I feel like if we can go through this generation, I'm gonna make a not a prediction. I'm just gonna say, okay, I'll just say it. If in this generation they've truly flipped sides And the Xbox One spends the next 2 years struggling to get its feet, and then manages to get going. Meanwhile, the PlayStation 4 for 2 years will have just like to be the way out in front, and everybody will be like, oh, it's so much better, blah, 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 blah. And then if at the course of the generation after this, if there are even consoles or humans by that point, Nick, I don't know, we could all be intelligent light robots or something by that point. But if by the beginning of the next console generation, which I doubt is going to look anything like this one, but if it does, and the PlayStation 5 comes out and it's way too expensive and nobody likes it, and then the Xbox, whatever stupid thing, the Xbox Fusion or whatever comes out, and it's priced affordably and it's moving and it's a little bit more powerful, and everybody's like, yeah, all right, I like this one better. I feel like at that point we'll have these last two console generations. We should just be able to predict the future in video games from that point on. We'll be like, it's going to be 2 months, and then there's going to be a security hole in the Xbox Fusion. It'll be like, boom, there it is, called it, because it's just the Matrix is stupid, and we're infinitely repeating this dumb generation of console cycles.
I think it's always best to kind of wait a year after the consoles are released, just to see if shit like this actually happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Only stupid, crazy people buy consoles the first day they come out.
Yeah, I mean, like, is there any particular need to get the Xbox One as soon as it came out? Because there wasn't exactly that many exclusives on it anyway.
No,
so surely you could wait around a bit.
That's actually not true. The Xbox had more exclusives when it first came out, because it had Dead Rising 3 and it had Forza Motorsport 5, and then I believe there was one. Oh, Rise was an exclusive. Now, granted, I mean, I thought that Dead Rising 3 was just fucking beautiful and phenomenal. I loved that game to death. Forza, I've heard a lot of mixed problems with, and then Rise we played, and it was kind of like, I kept meaning to finish it, but then I was just like, fuck it. But it actually did have a fair amount of console exclusives, and to be honest, I mean, nobody's really, I don't see very many articles talking about this, but like there's been a fairly good release schedule for games for these new consoles. Like, it's not like the Wii U where it came out and then there was just nothing for 2 or 3 months. Like, there have been consistent releases. I mean, Trials Fusion, Bound by Flame. There's been stuff coming out for these consoles on a fairly regular basis. So it's been a much faster and at this point, like when I bought my PlayStation 3, it was a good 7 to 8 months before anything really good came out for it. We had Ground Zeroes, there's been the Assassin's Creed 4 looked beautiful on the new consoles. Like, there have been good reasons to actually get one of these new consoles. And so I feel like this launch has gone a lot better than a lot of the previous launches that we've seen, where there's just a couple of things and then it takes a while to get ramped up, as there seems to be a lot more coming out. Well, you know what? We're starting to get a little bit behind here, so I'm going to start getting a little bit faster. There's going to be a new Rockstar game this year, Nick. I don't know if you saw this, but during a financial call, the CEO of Rockstar, Strauss Zelnick, said, quote, "We're excited about what Rockstar, I think this quote has changed it. We're excited about what we have in store for the new generation of systems this fiscal year." So there's probably going to be, this fiscal year concludes next year, March of 2015. There's a good chance that something's going to be coming from Rockstar to next generation consoles. The smart money is on Grand Theft Auto 5 for the new consoles in HD with a big facelift, which would probably be the really smart thing to do. But I want to open it up real quick. Wild speculation. Nick, give me some wild speculation.
I don't know. It would be awesome if there was like a Red Dead Redemption 2.
Okay.
I could return to the West. I'd be up for that.
I'm going to say State of Emergency 3. Boom. Going on the outside. I'm taking the long odds, man.
I think you're raising your hopes up a wee bit too high.
Oh, I hate State of Emergency. I hated the shit out of that video game. I returned it. Yeah. No, I'd be willing to bet. I mean, it's unless they've had Red Dead 2 in their back pocket for the last like 2 years and they've been working on it, I highly doubt that we're gonna see that. But hell, you know what? I want it. Like, I don't want it to sound like I don't want it. Some people have also said Bully, a sequel to Bully. maybe.
That would be so sick. I loved Bully. That was such an amazing game.
I never played it. I never got a chance to play it personally.
That is a perfect game for you and Jason to play.
Yeah.
I mean, like, just running around town and beating the shit out of people and, getting into detention and all that stuff. It's just like a kiddie version of Grand Theft Auto.
I've never heard anybody say real bad stuff about it. So I would absolutely love to give it a shot. And I actually have it on the PC. I haven't played it because I've been saving it in case one day we decide to do it on a show or something. So, but yeah, there's that. I guess what other Rockstar titles are out there? Table Tennis 2. Man,
was LA Noire, was that a Rockstar game?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Maybe a better version of LA Noire.
Maybe. I think Team Bondi, are they still around? Nope, they shut down. Team Bondi that actually did most of the work for them is actually shut down. But yeah, I don't know. LA Noire 2, The Warriors 2, Manhunt 3, who can say? But seriously, you guys, it's going to be Grand Theft Auto 5 HD. That's or not H. I don't know. What do you say when you move something from the PlayStation 3 to the PlayStation 4?
It might be DLC.
Could be. Yeah. Maybe that would probably be the best case scenario. Would be some kind of like Ballad of Gay Tony or Undead Nightmare, big DLC. But I heard that Lost in the Damned and the Ballad of Gay Tony didn't sell real well for Rockstar. They were critically well received, but they just didn't sell as much as the core GTA 4. So
they were actually really good. I really enjoyed them. I don't know why they didn't do well. I think Ballad of Gay Tony is probably one of my favorite DLCs, apart from Undead Nightmare.
I agree. I thought that they were both absolutely fantastic. I thought that Lost in the Damned, I mean, I've never been like super hot with the whole motorcycle stuff in GTA. Like they added in that driving the motorcycle and having like your group of motorcycle dudes with you. I was just ended up taking a car and driving around. But Ballad of Gay Tony, absolutely fantastic. Like that was the kind of berserk bananas GTA thing that I wanted to see out of that universe, and I thought it was really, really fun. All right, next up, there's been a little flip-flop in here. You know what, Nick, before we go on, we've talked about this a few times. You are still running straight PC for your games, right? You haven't gotten a PlayStation 4 or, obviously not an Xbox One, but you haven't bought a PS4, have you?
No, not yet.
Okay. All right, so Watch Dogs. Coming up soon. We're all real familiar with it. There's been a bit of back and forth. Last week there was a thing on Sony's page where they listed that on the PlayStation 4, Watch Dogs is going to run at a hot 1080p, 60 frames per second. Then they took that part off. Then they came back and said that it's going to run at 900p on the PS4, 720p on the Xbox One, and 30 frames per second on both systems. And I gotta say, I'm a little disappointed. I like my 60 frames per second, and I think that I don't necessarily mind the resolution change, like 900p as opposed to 1080p. Yeah, it's nice if it runs native 1080p instead of being up jumped from 900, but I'm much more important to me that it runs at a smooth, silky 60 frames per second because that shit is... I don't know. Jason can't even see the difference between 60 and 30. Can you, Nick? Do you tend to notice a frame rate on games?
Well, it's very subtle, but yeah, there is some difference. Well, my main concern is whether it works. Mm-hmm. That's about it. Whether it's actually playable.
Yeah.
Not like that piece of shit Rage game. I don't give a shit. There was 60 frames per second. It didn't fucking work, Jeff. Okay, it didn't work.
I don't feel it, Nick. You can't be on a video game podcast without getting Rage in there at least once before you're done. I think that's hilarious that game pissed you off so much. Yeah, I don't know. This is. I think that like when I played Ground Zeroes ran at 60 frames per second, and there's something about 60 frames per second. And I was actually listening to, they talk about how it's so much harder to code, to process at 60 frames per second than it is at 30. And it seems like it should just be, well, it's just twice as fast, right? But there's actually, when you look at what happens in a second, right? You got 30 frames per second, but it's not, you don't actually get the whole second to make your 30 frames. You only get like, you only get a chunk of that second because part of that has to be there for like a buffer, right, in case you get overrun or something like that. So I was listening to the Giant Bombcast, and they had a developer on one day, and they were talking about programming at 60 frames per second. It was really fascinating because the technical hoops that you have to jump through to get something running at 60 frames per second are much higher than 30, because 30 is a lot more forgiving based on the number of computations that you have to do in a single second to get all of those frames out at one time. But I feel like, at least for me, when you get 60 frames per second, it sings. It makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. And
how many frames per second was Grand Theft Auto 5?
Like 30, at least.
30 as well.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because it's an open world game. That's what makes it really tricky.
Absolutely.
Something like Call of Duty is very linear, so you could work around that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But you know what? You see, like, I don't know if it was 60 frames. I think it was only 30, but, when you're on the PC, and a lot of PC advocates will get up your, if you're a console player, they'll get up your ass about this sort of thing. But like, if you have a PC that's powerful enough to play this sort of stuff, you really can see the difference when you're running something and you've got all of the textures and everything just all maxed all the way out, and the game is running at full 1080p at 60 frames per second. It really is just a joy. And, I'm not saying that 30 frames is like shitty or anything. It's not. A lot of games run at 30 frames per second. And at the end of the day, it's more about the gameplay than anything else. But like, there's a kind of a fluidity at 60 frames per second that just really, I love it. I just really, really like it. So I don't know. We'll see. I think that when Watch Dogs comes out, I don't know if we're going to play it on the PS4 or the PC, because I don't know if my PC is going to be quite good enough for a top-of-the-line game like that. But we'll see. I thought it interesting, though, that's becoming a thing where they put that up. They didn't just put up 1080p at 60 frames per second and then slyly take it away. So when they took it away, like gaming websites were like reporting on the fact that they took that line off of the announcement tag, and then they came back and then they reached out, blah 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 blah. So next up, very close to the end here, this is something that I found really really kind of weird. So I don't know if you know this, Nick. Do you know you of course know GameSpy? GameSpy?
Yes, I know GameSpy.
Okay. So GameSpy is shutting down, and this is killing the online multiplayer support for 50 different EA games. And we're talking about stuff like Battlefield 2, Command & Conquer 3, Generals, Red Alert 3, Crysis, Medal of Honor Allied Assault, Battlefield 2142, Star Wars Battlefront 2. Like, there are 50 different games that are all basically, because this dumb Bulletstorm on the PS3, like, there's different things for different. EA has a whole thing on their website that has all this stuff on it. But it really makes me, like, a lot of times, we on a show a little while back, we talked about stuff like Uplay, right, for Ubisoft, or third-party stuff that gets horned into games, stuff like GameSpy. Games for Windows Live is getting shut down, and there's going to be another whole thing where you're going to see a bunch of other stuff not be able to be even played online because they took the Games for Windows Live support out of it.
So all these games will be unplayable because GameSpy has been taken down?
They won't be playable online at all, even though the online portions of them would be functional. The servers that they rely on to play online are all going to be shut down. Now, there's some question about whether or not there's a few different services that are trying to go out there and like set up like fan servers and then kind of hacks to it so that you can still play online with other people if you want to. What? I was just looking at Army of Two, Battlefield, or no, I already said Battlefield. Oh no, Def Jam for the PS3 and Xbox 360. Can't play that online anymore. But I think that this is a really good, I feel like this is something that not us as gamers, but that the gaming industry itself should take note of, because all these games, all their online stuff is going down, and I think that means a lot more than people may think at originally look at. You go, oh well, you can't play some 2-year-old game online anymore. Big whoop. But you go, think about the fact that a lot of these games have trophies that are related to online or achievements that are related to online that you'll never be able to get. The fact that if you have games like Army of Two, right, where playing online with other people, that was a really good way to play that game, and you just can't do that anymore. You can't say to your friend, like, it doesn't matter if millions of people are playing it. I can't say to you, hey Nick, you should go buy Army of Two on the PC and let's play it together, because you literally can't at this point. And the fact that EA they aren't going in to even like patch this stuff, that they don't have a good way to spoof it or put something in its place or keep some server turned on so that at least you can do peer-to-peer matching, just goes to show that when you rely on something like a third party to deal with your online stuff, that it can have some serious consequences if you decide to ever shut it down.
I wonder what these companies are going to do to make sure this kind of stuff doesn't happen that frequently. Because, I know, I mean, GameSpy has been around for years, like, since 2000?
Yeah.
Possibly earlier than that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's so bizarre. I thought like a GameSpy would be around for forever, practically.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like as long as you were seeing something that said powered by GameSpy, where you were, pulled up the online component, that they would still get licensed, or they would still have enough money, or at least they could just, somebody could take their servers and just leave the servers online, like just move the servers to a data center, have EA pay out of their pocket just to not have to deal with this. But I guess it just goes to show that, and this gets into that weird thing where you go, all right, so let's say you're a big fan of Battlefield 2142, Nick, right?
Yeah.
And they're not making a new Battlefield 2142. They're not supporting the last Battlefield 2142, but you still want to play that game. You want to play it online. You got friends. There's enough of a people. Because, like when I worked for Sony, there was you looked at the subscriber numbers on like MMOs, right? And look at Star Wars Galaxies. Even before they shut it down, there was still a core group of people that were paying enough for Star Wars Galaxies to keep their servers turned on, to keep some very light updates and bug fixes going through, keep like a couple of people employed working on it. So at this point, you go, if you want to play Battlefield 2142, and there's enough people out there who still want to play Battlefield 2142, well, EA has broken the game has been broken by shutting down the GameSpy servers. Now you get into a place where you're like, well, the only people who I know who would probably be able to keep that alive are going to be hackers, right? They're going to be the hackers and crackers, the people that were always looking for ways to run this game multiplayer without buying a copy because they couldn't log on to the GameSpy servers. So you're looking at people who have a knowledge of going in there and maybe making unauthorized alterations to the code so that people could set up local servers. And then you get into this weird thing of like, if there's a community around Battlefield 21, and I'm using Battlefield 2142 as an example. It could be anything. It could be Battlefront 2, Battlefront, or whatever. I don't know if those games still have legs right now. And you go, should these people be allowed to dig into the code and make unauthorized changes in order to keep the multiplayer for this stuff going? Because quite honestly, like if you were to buy Battlefield 2, like if you wanted to get Battlefield 2, Nick, and the fucking online servers were shut down, well, what fucking good is that? Who wants to play a Battlefield game with bots? Like,
it sounds like you're describing the seedy underbelly of like the gaming world. Like it's like, hey, can I heard you got like Battlefield 2142. It's
Yeah.
It's going to cost you. And you have to like go through these really dodgy, like, middlemen to get to the game you want to play online.
Yeah, I think that could totally happen. I think that will totally. I think it's already happened. I mean, I think that you already have people that are writing in hacks to basically go to other servers instead of the main servers that they're supposed to go to. But I hope that if this happens, and especially with Games for Windows Live as well, that EA and Microsoft both cut people some slack, because like I said, if you let's just say let's get around there. Let's not say that you want to buy a copy of Battlefield 2. Let's say you own a copy of Battlefield 2 or Battlefront 2, Star Wars Battlefront 2, right? It is now, as when this shuts down, worthless. Because the only way that you can play that game, it goes from being like, hey, this is a really fun game that I could play online. I could drive, an AT-AT and like be a Jedi and shoot a bunch of people and fly around and shoot my friends, and it was great. Woo! to like, this is a garbage game that is not worth $5 because all you can fight is mindless bots. Like the brain dead AI from a game that's like 5 years old are the only ones that you can play against. So it kind of, for some of these games that have a really big online component, it kind of just destroys that game. Just fucking messed up. Okay, two more quick ones because we're really running over time. Nick, you and I both watched the trailer for Sunset Overdrive coming from Insomniac. Nick, impressions?
Kind of reminds me of another game. Mm-hmm. Can you think of which one it is?
No, tell me.
Okay. Well, it kind of reminds me of like the whole Mirror's Edge thing with the whole parkour thing, but you're still shooting.
Mm-hmm.
But like, actually, no, I'm blanking now. I can't remember what the other part of it is. Is it not? It doesn't feel like that original to me. Like it feels like this has been done before.
Kind of seems. It seems to have some Dead Rising influence. For those of you who haven't seen it, you should go watch the trailer. There was
Saints Row 2.
Saints Row 2.
Saints Row 2 or 3.
Okay.
It has that kind of feel to it, like the kind of chaotic and the whole like ridiculousness of all the whole fighting and aspect.
Well, for those of you who haven't seen it, there was a cinematic trailer that was out there before. This is a third-person shooter where you are running around in an open world, and there's just there's these crazy zombies that have been created by this weird energy drink, these mutants, and you've got all this nutty Insomniac-style weaponry that you're shooting. And like the thing that struck me about it is, to me, it was more reminiscent of Dead Rising because of just the insanity that was on display there, where you had this crazy weapons, crazy enemies, shit blowing up all over the place, but then combined with this traversal system that probably, I guess, you say Saints Row, I guess to me it kind of looked more like Saints Row 4.
Infamous? What about Infamous?
Or Infamous, yeah, that's a good... Infamous was a little bit more toned down. That actually, Dead Rising 3...
Infamous for like the way you kind of travel around, like on these big, like... not cables, but like
running along like power cables and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and running along walls and jumping and stuff like that. It looks really fun, but I'm just going to say right now that I'm still a little bit wary of Insomniac. Ratchet and Clank into the Nexus was pretty goddamn good, but I remember Fuse, and I saw a really good trailer for that, and then I played it, and it was like, So, but if they can keep the intensity they have in this trailer of just insanity, like bright colors, and seizure-inducing, bizarro enemies, insanity, weapons, all that stuff, I'll give it a shot. I mean, it looks like it could be fun. Insomniac's generally a good developer, I think, when they're left to their own devices. And I always got the feeling with Fuse that the transition from Overstrike to Fuse happened because of some corporate person with some kind of like terrible, like, oh, you got to make it more gritty and realistic. So I don't know. Maybe this will be a chance for them to just do whatever they want to. I think it looks really cool. And last, but certainly not least, I am incredibly excited to announce that Superhot is finally got a Kickstarter. Nick, do you know what Superhot is?
No, what is that?
It goes super hot. You should look it up. It was actually part of a 7-day first-person shooter challenge, and they created this team created this game called Superhot. And the conceit of the game is very abstract. There was these just nebulous like character models of enemies, and you were in this environment where it was all just like kind of gray and black, and it was very minimalistic. But the core conceit of the game is that it's a first-person shooter, but when you move, time moves. And when you stop, time slows to just almost completely stopped, like it just super crawl. So it was a shooting game where like what would happen is you would stand there and there'd be these guys looking at you, right? And then when you started moving, they would start shooting at you. And then when you stopped, you could see their bullets coming through the air. And you could stop and you could plan, how am I going to do this? And so then you could go in between their bullets, right? And then you would grab their guns and you would shoot them in the head. And then whenever you finished each, or it was at the beginning or the end of every level, this voice would just come up and go, super hot, super hot, super hot. But it's absolutely fantastic. Like there's a demo out right now that if you got the Unity in your browser, you could totally play it. The demo, the quote unquote quotey fingers demo, takes about 15 minutes to finish. Like it's like 4 or 5 stages. It's really fun. They've got a Kickstarter. I don't normally like to pimp out Kickstarters, but I love Superhot, and the only reason we've never looked at it on Rage Select is because it's only 15 minutes long, and I don't know what to do with the other 15 minutes. But so far, they just opened, and they're at 64,500 of a $100,000 goal. So I'm really hoping this game gets made because it shows just a real. It's really an innovative concept. It's something that it's one of those things where when you look at it, you go, "God damn, I can't believe that that nobody's ever done this before." Like, why is it taking this long to get something this interesting and innovative? And
I guess it is technically a tactical shooter, the way you're describing it.
It's funny when you watch the Kickstarter video, the devs go and they say, like that one of the reasons that they made it like this is because they didn't want to have a game where you were like hunkering down behind cover. So at a lot of the levels there is no cover because when you stop, you can see the bullets. You can actually move in a tactical way to walk between the bullets, almost like you're in a crazy action movie where you're just like, the final stage in the Unity demo is basically the end of the Matrix. You're in a hall. There's 3 enemies at the end of the hall. They all got handguns and they all shoot at the same time. And so you have to essentially guide yourself between their bullets up to them and then kill them and take the gun and shoot the other ones. And it's a really, it's just a really fantastic, like if you play it, you'll get it instantly. Like, cause you start out and there's nothing happening and there's these guys and the whole game is just sitting there. There's nothing is happening. And then you hit, then you start trying to move your character and boom, everything starts moving and starts shooting at you. It's really fantastic. I would highly recommend everybody go check it out because it only takes 15 minutes to play and it's fucking free. So, what are you waiting for? And with that, I think we're going to go ahead and take a break. Nick, you and I, we always go so long on these shows. I don't know what it is.
Yes, sorry about that. So kind of get carried away.
No, it's all right. But when we come back, we're going to I've got a handful of questions that folks have written in to the show, and we are going to answer them one at a time, like you do. Or I don't know, maybe all at once. I'll just ask them all at the same time, and then we can skip between the answers. People can cut it up and put it back together later on. That sounds incredibly confusing. We are not going to do that. All right, so we're going to take a break. When we come back, it's time for questions, so we'll see you in a minute.
See you then.
All right, everybody, and we are back, and it's time. It's the time for the questions. Nick, are you ready?
I am so ready.
Is your body ready for questions from the listeners of Rage Select?
Yes, I am. Bring it on, mate.
Okay.
What is it?
All right. Here we go. I feel like this was one that you had a special. You were going to have a special connection to this question. All right. This comes from Max. Max says, "Dear Jeff and Nick, I am writing in to ask for your help. I'm a filmmaker and writer here in London, and 6 months have passed since I left full-time education. People tell me I'm talented and that I could do extremely well if I applied myself, but I am my own worst enemy. I'm a massive procrastinator. No matter how hard I try and sit down quietly to write or plan my next project, I just go online and get sucked into the vortex that is the internet. I know the answer is to put all my vices away, but I wanted to know, when you guys need to buckle down and get some work done, what is it that you do to help you focus? Keep up the amazing work on your show, and we'll hopefully see you guys when I come to Austin. May the power of Dongacles compel you. Bro hugs from Max." So, Nick, I thought that, this guy's a filmmaker and a writer in London, and he's trying to get motivated. Like, I can't tell him, you should go to Knightsbridge and get stabbed by the chavs. That'll compel you. Or
Knightsbridge? That's such a...
I don't know what things. They're British. Cheerio. Tea and crumpets. Like, I don't know. I figured this was an interesting question because it just so happened that you were on the show this week, and this guy said, I'm a writer and filmmaker from London, and he just got out of school, and he's trying to get motivated. And I figured that you probably had a unique take on this. So what would you say to Max?
Well, I completely relate to the whole procrastination thing because the internet is a pretty... it's a place you can get lost in quite easily. I mean, of course, you can do your research and get inspired by what is on the internet, but I feel like the best way to motivate yourself is like to surround yourself with like-minded people. So people that you could bounce ideas off of and who can, look at your work or like anything that you're preparing. And I know when I'm trying to work on my own project and, trying to raise money for that, I always kind of get tunnel vision and I start to lose interest in it if I don't speak to someone who is interested in the same things I am. So I really recommend him to, just to find, colleagues who are into the same field or even people online. Like, the internet's a great place to meet people who are also trying to make it or also trying to start their own projects. Just keep yourself surrounded by people who are like you, and you'll be inspired in no time.
Yeah, I have to agree. Is that I found that. Let's see, I don't think I'm going to talk about that one part. I'll talk about the other part. That when I started going to school to do art in general, there was a certain type of kick that you got from doing a thing, from proving to yourself that you can actually do a thing that gets done. But I can't emphasize exactly what you were saying, Nick, of how. There's probably two things that I would suggest. One would be definitely surround yourself with people who are both enthusiastic, supportive, and it's also especially important to find some people that have an insight into what you're doing. So if you were in school, I'd be willing to bet, unless, you're just terrifically antisocial, that you probably made some friends in school in the same programs that you were in. That you could hang out with, that you can bounce stuff off of, that you can say like, let's go and we'll talk about this. And, you can kind of use them to get yourself jazzed up for what you want to do. You can talk to them and they'll get excited about your project. And then that'll make you more excited because you've got this, it's very difficult, I feel, a lot of times that when you're in any type of creative field to rely on nothing but feedback from yourself. Right. Because a lot of times, especially if you're a perfectionist or if you're very driven, I know a lot of people, I'm not, me as well, but I know a lot of people out there who, if you leave them to their own devices, they'll do the same thing over and over and over again. They'll work a thing to death because they want it to be perfect. And a lot of times you need somebody to look at it from the outside to give you an outsider's perspective so that you're able to tell where you're going and you don't just get all wrapped up in your own thing. The other thing that I can tell you is that it is this can sometimes work and it sometimes can't. And it helps if you have an outside factor to give you some kind of deadline. Like a lot of times we'll set a deadline for ourselves when it comes to creative project. You'd be like, man, I'm gonna have that thing. I'm gonna have it done. I'm gonna have it up. I'm gonna have it put together by Friday or whatever. But if you're doing it for yourself, or if you're relying on yourself to make you do those things, then a lot of times you can talk yourself out of it. You'll be like, well, I felt bad this week, and that thing happened, and it really sucked, and I can't really get it together right now, and blah 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 blah. It really, what I've always found personally is that rather than sitting down and trying to write, I'm kind of all over the place with this. We've answered this question a number of different ways, a number of different times, but like my dad always used to tell me he was a writer. He Masters of English. He used to write for a newspaper. He's written a couple of books. He used to write technical manuals. He used to write all this stuff. And he always used to say to me that like the way that you learn how to write is you got to write. Is that if you want to get better at doing a trade or anything, not just art, but literally anything, the best way to get better at it is to do it. And the best way to that I feel like to get into that habit is you start small, right? You say, I'm going to write 2 pages every day. And it's really difficult to start that, but if you can get to a point where you're writing 2 pages of whatever a day, chances are that once you get into that habit, then eventually you're just it'll become easier to stick with the habit of writing 2 pages a day than it will to screw around and not. I would also say that as when he says I sit down quietly and then I get sucked into the internet, there's some really unorthodox thinking here. You ready, Nick? I got some far out suggestions for this guy. You ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Write with a pen on a piece of paper. Because you can't open a browser window on a piece of paper. Or if you want to go even more radical than that, go down looking for a pawn shop or something, and go buy like a typewriter. Not a word processor, not a computer, not anything like that. Go buy a typewriter, something that doesn't do anything except write, and then do that. Or, you say, leave the house, go to a coffee shop with a legal pad and a piece of paper, or go to a park, or go somewhere where, and don't bring a phone, don't bring your computer, don't bring anything. As I find that a lot of times the biggest problem is just to start, right? Is that once you get in there, like once you start whatever you're doing starts to take form, that I get then real into it. I get like tunnel vision, like you were saying, about once I can get something rolling, once I can get the ball finally moving forward, that then it's like it's hard to stop. And I don't want to stop doing it because you start to see this thing coming together, and you want to see where it's going to go.
But Jeff, how is he going to listen to new episodes of Rage Select if you tell him to put the computer down?
Well, I'm saying that you go to the coffee shop with your legal pad, and you write 4 or 5 pages. Then you come home to the computer and watch Rage Select for inspiration and, to chill out, and for all the fantastic and lovely ideas that we put forward onto the world, like dick bees and ice pimps and the crazy shit that we come up with. Then there you go. That'll be your reward at the end of the day.
Right, nice one.
There's actually been times, I don't know if you've ever done this, Nick, but like back when I was in my 20s, right, and there were times where I would take my computer. And this was back, it's a lot easier these days to get stuff because you can get all of the stuff online without having to have discs. But I would uninstall the games from my computer, and I would take all my game CDs, and I'd take all my consoles, and I would just take them over to my parents' house, and I would put them there. And I would be like, I'm not going to deal with this for a little while. And then I would come home. And what I found when that happened was that I just started reading a whole hell of a lot of books. I would just be constantly reading a book because I needed some kind of like offline decompression from my job at that point. But I've actually thought about doing an experiment from time to time where, like, if I can find a day that Rage Select doesn't need a thing, or I could get somebody else to post, and just like turn off my phone, turn off my computer, and just go and walk around Austin, put a $50 worth of cash in my pocket, go downtown, park, get out without a phone, without any connection to the outside world, and just walk around, or go to a park, or go out to, drive a little ways out of Austin and find like a big park where nobody is, and just hang around there and do that. Not worry about taking pictures or Facebook, kind of just detoxing a little bit from this constant connection that we have. Because I used to be like that, I feel like we all, or those of us at a certain age, used to not have all of this connectivity in our lives, and that sometimes I feel like that could be kind of oppressive, right? So there's constantly some kind of input to be looking at on your phone, on your computer, email, Facebook, Twitter, blah, 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 all that stuff. And that, I remember a time when I used to just walk around and when I was in Europe, right? That was before smartphones. The internet was way less than it is right now. I didn't have a game console, so I was just waking up every day, going out, walking around these towns and eating and going to museums and stuff like that. And I'm not going to say that like one is better than the other, but I think that sometimes it helps to get a little perspective by just disconnecting from that stuff for a little while. So,
yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. Although, I think I find myself reading a lot more when I'm on holiday as well, and you do have more time to yourself, and then that's when your creative juices start flowing the most, where it's not tainted by other people's ideas, but you come up with a solid idea yourself.
There you go. So yeah, shut it all. Back when there was a time when I was studying to get some certifications, some network certifications, and the only way that I could study for that was to turn off my shitty flip cell phone. But the only way that I could do it was to leave my apartment and go somewhere else with the book and a cup of coffee and the book, and just read and study. Because if I was in this hive that we've all built of basically just a number of things to distract you, right? It's just this huge array of things that we have built up to distract ourselves. It is very, very easy to get off on a tangent. It's one of the reasons that every week I try to make this isn't exactly the same thing, but I try to make a pointed effort to leave my house, go to a bar, and talk face-to-face with human beings, which I could totally chat with people on the internet, but you got to have some of that real-life junk going on. I don't know. All right. Our next question comes in from Dennis, and Dennis says, "Dear Dong Priests," is that what we are now?
What?
Yeah. This is all sprung out of the whole Dongacles thing, Nick. So, dear Dog Priest, what was the game preview that made you feel the most foolish? For me, it was Tomb Raider 3. It promised stealth and multiple routes. All hell Dongacles, Dennis. So what do you think, Nick? Do you have a specific game that you remember the preview coverage of, like, just tricking the shit out of you?
Oh, yeah, it's going to be really obvious and boring, right? Aliens Colonial Marines.
Okay. Well, what about before that? I mean, do you think of any others?
I don't know, maybe Operation Flashpoint 2 for the PC?
Mm-hmm.
But, no, nothing off the top of my head right now.
Okay. I remember when this comes up, I talk about Trespasser all the time, so I'm going to skip that because Jurassic Park Trespasser, that's the easy pickings for me. But one of the ones that I will never, ever, ever forget, and I have mentioned this before, but I'll go into it more, is there was this game called Advent Rising. Do you remember that, Nick?
No, remind me.
So Advent Rising, they did a cover story on it I think in a Game Informer. I think that's where I heard of it, and it seemed like the most awesome thing ever. This was it was written by Orson Scott Card, and this was before Orson Scott Card became a crazy homophobe or whatever. So this is just when all I knew about him was like, oh yeah, he wrote those Ender's Game books, and I liked those. And it was this third-person action game that was take place in the future, and it was basically the conceit of the game was that you were humans, kind of a Mass Effect style. You're like humans out in a universe full of aliens, but there had been this prophecy that like humans were going to become the most powerful force in the galaxy, like that they were going to be the ones who were going to rule everything at some point. And so there is aliens that decided that they didn't want that, so they came in to like screw up your whole day. And so you would start the game and it was kind of a third-person action game where you would shoot and you would jump around and that sort of stuff. It reminded me a little bit of Oni, but the way that it was set up was that as the game went on, your particular character started to tap into this force that had been hidden in humanity for a long time to turn into this superpowered being. So you started out, it's kind of like Saints Row 4 in a way. You started out with guns and driving around and stuff like that, and then as the game went on, your need for guns became less and less because you got more and more of these powers, and then by the end of the game, you were just like this like rocking, super powerful, like godlike being. You're just tearing up all these aliens. Had kind of an interesting art style to it, and I read, I think, like 2 different preview things of it where these online places were doing preview coverage of it. I couldn't wait. It seemed like the coolest thing, right? Like kind of interesting character design. Orson Scott Card was writing it. Tommy Talrico was doing the soundtrack, this orchestral score. This would be this big, big game. And it was actually slated to be the first game in a trilogy of games that took this idea, this sci-fi idea, and then moved it forward over the course of 3 different games to, where you start with the emergence of these powers, and then as you go on, it would be more about like, what does this mean for the universe, and blah, 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 blah. Game came out, terrible. Just really not very good game. It was like episode 1, man. I tried to convince myself that this was a good game. It was not a good game. It was an interesting game, but it was highly flawed in that the action got boring. The story was a little all over the place, and it controlled kind of like garbage. But it was one of those games where the preview coverage of it looked so good, and then the game that we got was just like, bleh.
I just thought of another one.
Okay.
The Thing. Did you ever play The Thing?
No, I haven't, but I know what you're talking about. I actually know some people who really, really like that game. The one on the PlayStation 2.
Yeah, the one on the PlayStation 2. I remember playing it on the PC. It was going to be like a direct sequel to the movie, and it just looked so cool. Like the idea that you have a squad and you don't know who of them could be the thing.
Right.
They really emphasize that, and it's absolute bullshit because you get your teammates to that invisible wall at a certain point that they automatically turn into the thing and try to attack you. That you'd give them like the blood test and they'd be completely fine, and they would take one step forward and then they would turn into the thing and attack you. That just completely ruined any suspense for me and was kind of really formulaic.
I could see that. I think the other one was maybe obviously is another easy answer. Fable. OG Fable. Because of all the shit that Peter Molyneux promised about Fable, about being able to like plant a tree and then you come back years later, there'll be a forest here and it'll totally change the entire way that all this stuff works, blah, 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 blah. And then when the game came out, I actually never played it. But I understand, like I had a friend, it was actually where I was working at Apple at the time. This guy took me aside. He's like, "Oh, do you have an Xbox?" I was like, "No." And he's like, "Oh, you got to check out this Fable game. It looks absolutely fantastic." And then when it came out, the reviews of it were like, does it do any of that stuff? No. It's all right though. So I don't know.
When's he going to make another black and white? That's all I care about. He should go back to what he was good at.
Yeah. Damn right, Peter Molyneux. Just get your shit together. We're tired of this crap. I don't know. I like Peter Molyneux, even if, I just feel like as long as we're all on the same page and we know that Peter Molyneux generally cannot deliver on the things that he's saying, and that you need to take what he's saying with a grain of salt because it's very possible that what he says will not ever damn happen. So, I mean, you brought up earlier, Project Milo was a perfect example, right? Where everybody was like, I want to play that. And it was like, no, it's a tech demo. It's never actually coming out or it's not going to be a thing. So
it was extremely awesome if it ever came to be. But you know what was funny? I was thinking about the other day. The idea that you could draw a picture for Milo and hold it in front of the Kinect cam, and he would recognize it and say, "Oh, that's a nice picture of Doggy." For some reason, I pictured that Jason would draw a picture of a penis and just show it to fucking Milo.
And he just, "Oh, that's a nice picture of a doggy." He just does the exact same thing.
Well, no, maybe he would just have this traumatized face, looking at you at the screen. Jason would be thinking of ways to fuck up Milo throughout the game.
Milo calls the cops on Jason. He's like, "I got internet connection. I'm calling the cops." Yeah, I don't know. See, I guess the thing is that after Trespasser and after Advent Rising, that's why when Aliens Colonial Marines was announced and they were showing it, and I was like, "I don't know, you guys. I've been burned before." And everybody was like, No,
you weren't. No, you didn't. You didn't fucking say that.
I so did. I absolutely did. I even saw that shit at E3 in 2011. I saw their demo for it, and I came out of it. And whenever it came up, I was just like, "I don't think that looks very good." I was not excited for that game.
You totally thought that was real gameplay. We all did. That's why we're so pissed off about it.
No, well, no. Okay. That was never the problem for me. It was never the fact that that the gameplay demo that they showed was not the same as what it was. For me, it was always just a question of, is it a good idea to even make this game that you are making? Because it was like they were just making Aliens over again, and I said a whole bunch of times, I don't know if I just want to play scenes from Aliens. Aliens is a cool movie. I've seen it a bunch of times. I don't know if I just want to play that stuff. So I personally, back in the old loading bar days, you remember, Nick, I always had to be the one when everybody was just like, "Did you see Watch Dogs? This is great. I've never seen anything my entire life. It's going to be the greatest game ever. And so things like this were the reasons that I would be like, let's put our hands on it before we declare from a trailer that this is the greatest game to ever be created in the history of mankind, because that shit has happened to me before, where you see a trailer, you see some preview footage, and then you go to play the game, and you're like, oh man, like this was supposed to be really good, but it's not. So I don't know. I still prefer just to wait and get my hands on it, and before I make any kind of grand sweeping declarations.
Well, I do now. I mean, before Aliens Colonial Marines, I guess I was more innocent of the world. I was more enthusiastic about titles to come out. Now I'm just like this miserable, depressed kind of guy who just, doesn't believe anything he sees unless it's made by Naughty Dogs.
Well, you know what? I'll take you one step further with that. Is like, back in the old days, back in the real old days when I was 10 and you weren't alive, I used to go every week. I had my NES, right? And we used to go every week to the video store. And if I was good and I got good grades on the weekend, I was able to pick out an NES game to rent. And so there were always like these tentpole. Like I had a subscription to Nintendo Power. So there's always the games that Nintendo Power is pimping out. They'd be like, here's a 3-pager about Final Fantasy. I'd be like, ooh, I want to play that. But then you played all those games. You played most of those games. And then you go to the video store and you're going to rent an NES game. And this is going to be your weekend when you're a kid, right? You got 2 days where you got to go back to school to beat this game. And so in the early days, a lot of the selection about what are you going to play was based on the box art and what it said on the back of the box. Like,
I was about to say that, yeah. That was your fucking preview, just the picture.
Right. Right. So you would pick up something that had like an awesome picture on the front. You'd be like, Street Fighter 2020. I like Street Fighter in the arcade. And this game has got a dude that looks like Ken, but he's like shooting lasers out of his arms. You turn it around. It's like, wow, this is laser future. All right, I'm totally going to rent this. Then you bring it home and you go, fuck, this is my weekend, man. Because, you couldn't get your parents to take you. Be like, Mom, this game sucks. Take me back to the store. She'd be like, just go to hell, Jeff. You play what you made the decision. You get to play what you got. So you end up with a weekend where you're playing, or like, you'd go to the store and you'd see like, holy shit, that's a Total Recall game for the NES. Like, I love Total Recall. I'm totally going to get that one. It's going to be as awesome as Total Recall, the movie. Oh, man, this is crap. So I was getting the bait and switch when I was, 10 to 12 or whatever. You go out to the store and you go, Milon Secret Castle, this is incredible. It's going to be great. Shit, So I've had that happen to me for a long time, and the older I get, the more wary I am about, like, it's going to be the greatest. You go, well, okay, I'm not going to believe that it's not going to be the greatest so hard as to poison myself against it, right? But I just want to get my hands on it before I say for sure.
But you have to say it is funny that Aliens Colonial Marines is used now as an example. Like, for anything that is coming out. It's like, well, remember how we got burnt? Do you remember? It wasn't that long ago. We should probably just wait.
See, when that happened, it was the weirdest thing to me, Nick, because the thing is that I've been talking like that for a long time, as I'm cautioning, like, I've been through shitty game launches before. I was there when I played Metal Gear Solid 2 for the first time, and then suddenly it was Raiden for the majority of the game, and I was like, what the fuck, man? There were times in video games where things happen, and it was like, I didn't see that coming, and it's a letdown. And I think that it's funny that people talk about Aliens Colonial Marines like this is the first time that shit has ever happened.
Okay, just to clarify, okay, the Metal Gear Solid 2, okay?
Yeah.
I totally get that people were pissed off that you had to play Raiden.
Yeah.
But you did play the tanker mission. It was exactly what you saw in the demo. Whereas Aliens Colonial Marines is a lie. Like, it looks totally different. It's got none of the cool shit we saw in the fucking demo. It's a lie.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, I don't know. Once again, like I said, I wasn't as invested in it, so I wasn't as let down when it came out. In fact, like I've even said this before, I can make a case about why actually Aliens Colonial Marines is a really fun game. Like if you pick it up for $5 and you play it with your friends and you get drunk and you're just like, look at this dog shit. Can you believe that they did this? Can you believe that a company actually made this game? It can actually be really fun because my friend and I played the whole game co-op, which makes it super easy. Like you don't have the challenge is almost totally gone if you play it as a co-op. And then like just bugs and shitty dialogue and stupid shit happening, and you just sit there and you just go, look at this. This is gloriously stupid. This is awesome. So I actually got more enjoyment out of Aliens Colonial Marines than probably a lot of other people did because I played it with my friend and we just laughed at it the entire time about like, this is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, it's not the worst game I ever played. At least it worked.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Whereas, when I got a Power Glove, when I saved up as a kid and I bought a Power Glove and then that shit didn't work, that was a big letdown.
Wait, did you actually get the Power Glove?
Sure.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, you are such a nerd. You got the fucking Power Glove.
You got to remember that when so that at the time, like I said, gaming press was very different. It wasn't as in depth as it is now. It was a very different thing. So my primary the primary advertisement for the Power Glove, we actually talked about this on one of the videos. I think we talked about it last week. Was The Wizard? Was the movie The Wizard? And you saw Lucas pull the Power Glove out, and he was all super cool looking and stuff, right?
I love the Power Glove. It's so bad.
Right. And he pulls it out and he's playing Rad Racer and it makes it look like, oh my God, he's like using his hand to control it. Like it's just fucking, And then they had all these commercials for it that made it look just perfect. And then you buy it, you bring it home. You're so excited. You're just like, oh my God, I finally have this. It's the future. I'm strapping the future to my arm.
I could be Lucas. Finally.
It looks so cool. It looks like it's going to be the next thing. It's going to be the new thing that's going to change video games forever. And then you hook it up and you point at the TV and it doesn't work worth a shit. And you're just like, oh. And as a kid, it's like you're talking about, this is when I was, let's see when the Power Glove came out. Because, let's see. It was design and functionality, games, reception. Is that it? Is it? I can't. The Wikipedia page doesn't have a release date for it.
Just put in The Wizard. It had to be within the year of The Wizard.
Release date. It was. Is that? Okay, so this was 1989. 89.
Oh.
Right?
Not even close.
So when the Power Glove came out, I was 11. Okay? So this was not a time when I had a job that afforded me money to go buy dumb shit. What I had to do to get a Power Glove was I was reading Nintendo Power. I was reading all this stuff. I was super psyched to saw The Wizard, saw the commercials. And so I had to save up. I had to save like my birthday money and like my allowance and stuff and kind of save up. And I finally had enough money. Finally was able to go out and buy the Power Gloves, this thing that, if you have to save up for something like that, it makes it even worse because you've been not buying other stuff. You've been like, no, I'm not going to buy that game. I'm going to save that money and I'm going to get a Power Glove. And then when you get it home and you hook it up and it just doesn't fucking work. And you're just like, all this time, all this effort that I put in to get this piece of shit doesn't work worth a damn. And
how old were you at the time?
I was 11 when it came out. I got my NES when I was 10 years old in 88. I'd be willing to bet I got a Power Glove when I was probably around 12, right?
11 I feel like giving the 12-year-old version of yourself a hug. Just saying that it's going to be all right. It's not all bad.
Well, I mean, there's
a game called Grand Theft Auto that's going to come out. It's going to blow your socks off.
Yeah, it's not like I stopped playing video games and never went back. But I also feel like it was kind of an important lesson, right? Is that, like, sometimes you get really psyched up about a thing. And I'm not even saying don't get psyched up about things. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that just, if the thing you got psyched up for ends up being shitty, it shouldn't mess with you as a human being. It should just be like, wow, come on. What I should have done, what I didn't do, is I wanted that thing to work so badly that I kept it, and I kept trying it with different games, and it never worked. What I should have done when I loaded it up and it didn't work was I should have put it back in the box and taken it back to the store and returned it, because I remember my parents, they were like, is that working? And I was like, yeah, I just got to get used to it. It's fine. And they'd be like, are you sure you're happy with that? And I didn't want it to be bad. So I was like, no, it's fine. I'm going to try with this other game. It'll be fine. I kind of got it working with Strider a little bit. And I was like, this is okay. And I think my parents could see that it wasn't what I wanted it to be, but that I wanted it to be that so bad that I wasn't willing to even admit that it wasn't going to be that it was just garbage. So
people had way more patience back then.
Yeah.
Like that would last for a second today.
Oh, well, the thing is that it would be like instantaneously it would be negatively reviewed across the internet, because we have the internet to spread that stuff out. Whereas you think about what was going on at that time, you had EGM, you had GamePro, you had Nintendo Power. Nintendo wasn't going to badmouth the Power Glove because they were fucking selling it. And then, GamePro and EGM, not exactly like the most single, like, we're not talking about Woodward and Bernstein here, like fucking digging in, to the grand conspiracy of the Power Glove and how Nintendo's been pushing it forward or anything like that. So it was just it was a different time and that level of connectivity. Like, what would happen, the way that you'd get a review for the Power Glove is that one of your friends would buy it, and then they would tell you it was terrible, and then you wouldn't believe them, and then they would say, no, come over to my house, you can totally use it, you can have it, I don't even want it anymore. Anyway, all right, we spent way too much time on that one question. So we move on to the next one. This was from Rick. Rick says, hello, gentlemen. Long-time listener, first-time writing in. Here is my question. I have a friend who believes that the prequel trilogy of Star Wars was a great addition to the saga. I believe this is blasphemy. However, everyone is entitled to their own opinion. He went on to say that Revenge of the Sith was the best Star Wars ever made, and Empire Strikes Back pales in comparison to the awe of Episode 3, to which I wanted to stab him and, quote, bleed him real quiet, unquote. I know it's almost impossible to change someone's opinion, but how would you go about defending my position? Furthermore, what is your take on the matter? Thanks. Long live Dongacles. What do you think, Nick? Did you just go with stab him?
I will get a new friend after you stab this one.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, part of me goes, if he does enjoy it, if this guy does enjoy the prequels and he does enjoy Episode 3, why not just let him enjoy it? He's wrong.
Oh, you're such a hippie, dude. Live and let live, bollocks. I mean, you know what boggles my mind? Jason is a fan of the prequels.
Yeah.
I mean, like, Jason gives me so much shit, but, like, that's the one thing I got over him. Like, he likes the fucking prequels. Dude, you should get your friend to watch the Red Letter Media reviews of the prequels. Like, back to back.
Yeah.
And, just, like, tie him down to a chair and force him to watch it. Do it like Clockwork Orange style, where you, like, peel his eyelids back and keep feeding him eye drops so he can keep watching it. Then he'll get it. He'll understand why they suck.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Red Letter Media makes a lot of it's real easy when you're watching a movie, especially like Star Wars, to get kind of like swept up in the when I was I will firmly admit this. I watched Episode 1 a whole bunch of times. And I didn't want it to be bad, and I didn't want it to be bad so bad that I watched it a whole bunch of times. And I was like, I like this movie. And it wasn't until later when I got far enough away from it and I was able to look back on it that I was like, I don't really... it was more that I wanted a Star Wars movie so bad that I was willing to overlook a lot of the crappy crap that happened in that movie. So Nick's got a good point with the Red Letter Media stuff. I mean, I think that their analysis of the prequel trilogy is really good. They point out a lot of stuff that just doesn't really work as well with modern storytelling, and
they just aren't good films. Period.
I mean,
the way that they're shot, like he made a good point of how they're like soap operas.
Yeah,
that they're always sitting on a couch or they're walking for a bit and talking about a problem, and then they stop. and then they carry on walking again.
Yeah, I mean, I could say this, and I think that Nick, you could probably, this will probably maybe put something into perspective. Is that like when I went to go study animation, there was a point when I was studying animation where I started to see exactly how animation is put together. And part of that was I had to take storyboarding classes and I had to take a few editing classes where you start to understand the visual storytelling of just things like camera placement and lighting and tracking shots and action shots and cuts and things like that, which I'm sure that Nick, as you've gone to film school, you understand all that stuff as well, to where if you don't really know that much about that stuff, you could watch like, I guess the example that always comes to mind is Spielberg, right? Spielberg has some really interesting camera stuff that he does, just real kind of subtle moves and framing devices and things like that, that if you're not looking for it or if you're not like super into just the visual language of film, you could not ever actually see it. Is that you would,
but you'll like it though. That's the thing. Like,
right.
You won't notice it, but you'll like it. Whereas with these films, you'll think you'll know that this looks shit. I don't know why it looks shit, but it looks shit to me. And it's not until like you really think about it or someone explains it to you, like, oh, it's because the blocking is unimaginative.
Right.
It's always just two characters sitting down or standing up or against a green screen. That there's no movement of camera. The only time the camera moves is when there's an action scene, not when there's like a scene of dialogue.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also feel like some of this stuff, it's kind of one of the reasons why I said at the beginning, like maybe just let him like it, is because I feel like there's a point when you're looking at fiction, right? And I feel like more and more people are like this these days, where you start to really think about things like even the writing, like the hero's journey, the way that the 3-act structure is set up, the way to do dramatic reveals, like the way to write your standard kind of adventure movie or action movie or things like that. Certain types of tropes when it comes to humor or protagonists, and that I feel like a lot of times we end up being a lot more cognizant of the way that filmmakers are using those things than I remember being before I started going into animation, where I could just watch a movie and just go, yeah, whatever, I don't care, fuck it. I mean, it's the reason that I like, all right, fine. The first Transformers movie, I thought it was fine. Is it a smart movie? Fuck no. Is it clever? Not really. Does it make a point about anything? Nope. Is it like food for thought? Absolutely not. But what it is stupid one-liners and Michael Bay blowing shit up and robots punching each other and shit blows up real good. And sometimes in a movie, that's all I want to see. I enjoy movies like I enjoy movies that go above and beyond that. I mean, I don't want to put movies like Brick or like Inception or stuff that gives you, it's more engaging to you on a personal level. But sometimes I feel like there's room for that just garbage, blow shit up real good. Bad Boys, right?
I'm totally with you, mate. I love Bad Boys 2, Commando even.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's absolutely retarded, but it's fucking amazing.
Right. And so I feel that in some cases with the Star Wars, there's two things about Star Wars. One is that, especially in the prequel trilogy, if you can just get swept up by all of the visuals, right? Not the blocking and not the storytelling and not any of that, but just like these other worlds and the aliens and lightsabers and force powers and Jango Fett and the Reigns and the Yodas jumping around and the Palpatine, zap zap and Kit Fisto, blah 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 blah. Like that, you can kind of get swept up in all that stuff, and that the difference is, for my money, one of my big litmus tests is that I feel like the best movies in the world, you could strip away the frills and they'll still work no matter where they are. Like you look at the original Star Wars, right? Star Wars, OG, A New Hope Star Wars is a very basic story that you could redo that story in so many different ways. You could make it a Western, you could make it a modern day, you could put it in You could make it a medieval story because it's just a story of, it's a coming of age story of a kid who discovers that he's more important, who's, he's pining to get away from his boring life, and he ends up getting swept up into this adventure. You've got a princess that's been kidnapped. You've got an evil knight who is taken her away and who has this giant thing that's going to mess stuff up. You've got this plucky band of rebels who are trying to stop this evil empire from destroying. It's a really classic story. You could do it in a number of different ways. Then I think about the prequel trilogy, and they're so complicated. They start with the Trade Federation, right? Intergalactic space trade law. And you go in some ways the original or the prequel trilogy has some elements that you could make into a different movie where you talk about you've got the corruption, you've got a same kind of story, of a coming of age story of a youth who is taken away from these circumstances and developed, and then he his fall from grace type of thing. But it's executed in such a stilted way that I don't feel like it's as smooth of a movie as the original ones were.
Absolutely not. I think it's all just filler just to get to the action. And I'm actually going to quote Red Letter Media. One of the things he says is excessive action isn't effective action. Like there's no, you're not really hooked into the action going on because there's nothing going on behind it. Like you don't care about these characters, so why should you care about the action itself?
Right.
That's why The Rock is a way better movie than Transformers, because the characters are just so brilliant in The Rock.
Nicolas Cage and so winners go home and fuck the prom queen. Sure, yeah.
Okay. You like The Rock. You have to admit that's a good movie.
Oh yeah, dude, it's like I said before, I like Michael Bay movies. Would I ever try to tell anybody like Michael Bay is the greatest living director? Of course not. He likes blowing shit up. I like watching shit that done, gone, and blown up. And everything that he's made is not fantastic. I think that Pearl Harbor I've never seen. I thought The Island was stupid. I thought the Transformers Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon were both garbage. I like Revenge of the Fallen. I just skip to the last 20 minutes and watch the robots punch each other, because that's all I really want to see. I don't care about the Shia LaBeouf's parents. I could give less of a shit about that. But like, he does what he does, and a lot of people are like, well, it's stupid. And I'm like, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. That you could have a stupid movie.
Haven't you noticed the action scenes are way more cool when there's a good story behind it, or not even a good story, but like there's some really interesting characters behind it.
It definitely makes it a better, it definitely is a better film when you care more about the characters, right?
Yeah, it enhances the viewing experience,
right?
Especially Bad Boys 2, because that film was really funny.
Mm-hmm.
And you got like these awesome action scenes, and then these really funny bits between Martin Lawrence and Will Smith.
And I thought that Bad Boys 2 is Bad Boys 2 is one of the greatest comedies of all time, Nick, because even when Bad Boys 2 is trying to be really serious, it's still fucking funny. Like when they have that spinning shot when they come up into the thing and he says, shit just got real. I laugh every time. I'm just like, that is fucking amazing. Like, it's so over the top. It's so stupid that it's a parody of itself. It's like, it's both the quintessential 90s explosion action movie and it's making fun of it at the same time.
I was so happy when Hot Fuzz referenced that scene in Bad Boys 2.
Yeah.
It's like, finally someone who understood how funny that is as much as I did.
So go watch the Red Letter Media's thought about it far more than we have. But at the end of the day, I mean, if your friend really likes that, oh man, I feel like, the way to maybe make your friend not like that as much is to keep exposing your friend to movies that are better than Star Wars. Just show him as much sci-fi as you can that is better than the prequel trilogy. Find the best sci-fi that's out there and show him that instead. And then at the end of the day, when he's got a whole bunch of other stuff, aliens, hell, we've mentioned before Total Recall. I think Total Recall is a really fun movie. I think Demolition Man's a really fun movie, real lighthearted, just kind of blowing shit up. Go find a bunch of those 80s and 90s Predator, that kind of stuff. Go show them those movies. Give them a frame of reference of stuff that is better than the prequel trilogy, and then I don't know, maybe he'll change his mind.
Are you just thinking that he hasn't seen any other movies apart from Revenge of the Sith?
Yeah, obviously he's been living in a cave, and all he had were 3 VHS tapes for the prequel trilogy, and so he's like, "No, these are my friends. I love them." All right, let's move on. Our next one comes in from Caged Panda. Caged Panda says, "Dear Jeff and Nick, this is my first time sending in a question on the new site, so I hope you guys get the chance to read this. I am getting ready to graduate from," he says, KU, which I assume is University of Kansas University, "with my bachelor's degree in history, and my parents are asking me what I want for a graduation gift. Seeing as they spent $1,000 on my older sister when she graduated, they want to do the same for me. While I don't want them to spend that much money on me, and I feel like a spoiled brat, they continually tell me it's okay. Anyway, I'm unsure what to get. Right now, I'm thinking about a PS4, and that's about it. What do you guys think I should get with the extra $600? Anything you guys might recommend for a new apartment? Clothing, a one-night stand with Loretta. What comes to mind would be really helpful. Thanks for everything, and keep the rage alive. Sincerely, Adam, a.k.a. Caged Panda on the site." I don't know, Nick, say we gave you $600 right now. What would you do with it?
Probably use it to pay the rent, I think. I don't know. Like, you could use it to, I guess, buy loads of games for the new PlayStation 4, but I don't know. I was thinking if you have $1,000, you can use that towards getting yourself a computer.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that if he's just graduating, right, and if he's going to be moving out, I mean, he says that anything you guys might recommend for a new apartment, right? So I get the feeling he's graduating. He's going to buy a PS4. I assume he's already got a TV, or else he would have just spent the other $600 on that. Moving into
Lazy boy, you're a genius, Jeff. That's what you should get, lazy boy.
I was thinking, take that $600, go to IKEA, like everybody who's young and doesn't have any furniture does, and buy a bunch of shitty furniture for your new apartment. Because $600 can go a long way at IKEA. You get yourself a couch, you get yourself some chairs, you get a table, a couple of things. That's a really boring answer, though. So let's just say, Nick, you got everything in your life. Your rent's paid. You got your PlayStation 4 and your computer. You got $600. Go berserk. What do you do with $600?
Go on holiday.
Go on holiday?
Yeah. Go to a place you've always wanted to go and have fun there.
Yeah, you could actually, $600 is enough that you could take like maybe a 3-day weekend, maybe 4 days. You could take half that maybe for gas within Kansas. You could probably get into Texas. You could probably go down to Louisiana. You could probably go, my geography is messed up. I don't know how far you could get on that, but yeah, you could do that. I always find that, you could always take it and you could do what I do, which is put it in a box and then every so often just pull 100 out, put it in your wallet, and that weekend when you go out with your friends, just do whatever. Like be like, hey, who wants a drink? Drinks are on me right now, or whatever. Or go out to a really, really nice restaurant. Like go spend $100, $150 on like a really, really nice dinner somewhere. You could.
That would just make me depressed, actually.
Why?
If I just spend $150 on dinner.
Why?
Because, that's a lot of money, and you just basically just ate it and shit it out. Trading it for an experience of a lifetime is way more of a worthy investment than, at least if you used it to go to a strip club and buy, cocaine or whatever, that's an experience. Just going and getting a meal, I really doubt that you will remember that meal for the rest of your life, thinking, well, that Wiener Schnitzel was really something. I'm going to remember that until I'm, 90 years old and on my deathbed.
I don't know, man. Maybe I was raised with more reverence for food, but there have been a couple of times in my life where I've gone out to eat at places and they've been an experience that I've remembered for a long time. When we were once again, to go back to the whole European thing, I've told this story before, but when we were in Amsterdam, we were walking down the street one day and we wanted to just eat something, and we ended up wandering into this Chinese restaurant, and it turns out that Chinese restaurant had a Michelin star. We didn't know. We didn't look at any of the outside. We just looked at the menu. We're like, hey, yeah, they got broccoli beef. Let's go in here. Let's get some broccoli beef. And it was the single greatest plate of Chinese food I've ever eaten in my entire life. It was like I ate that broccoli beef and went like, oh shit, this is what broccoli beef is supposed to taste like. I didn't know before. I've been eating a pale imitation of this my entire life. So I don't know. I personally put some stock in that, but yeah, you could also clothes. I don't really like buying clothing. I hate it. I wear my clothes until they're falling apart, and even then I'll tape them back together because I think that buying clothes is kind of a dumb investment.
That's because you're a man. That's why.
Yeah.
Only men think like that.
Yeah. What can I say? I don't know. Maybe take $300. I tell you what, take your remaining $600, spend $300 on something sensible, take the other $300, just fucking go bananas. Do whatever you feel like. I don't know. You like hookers and cocaine? I can't tell you to do that because then I'll end up getting sued because somebody on this website will go, don't do cocaine and sleep with hookers. Just go to something fun, you know? Maybe go to some really fancy bar or something, or I don't know. Take all your friends out for a dinner. That's always a nice thing to do sometimes. I don't know. I've kind of turned into a terrible miser because all I do is games, and then when I'm not doing games, I drink cheap beer and eat cheap hamburgers. So
and Doritos.
No, I don't engage in the Doritos trade.
What about Cheetos? Do you have Cheetos instead?
No, not as much, but well, sometimes. I mean, I just don't eat as many chips. I mean, I eat fries, but whatever. All right, we're going to start motoring a little bit faster here because we're all the way over time. Hey, Jeff and Nick, this is a question specifically for Jeff. What is your opinion of Hellsing Ultimate? You mentioned that you'd watched it, and I wondered what you thought of it and how it stacks up against other modern vampire properties. Thanks again, and Rage On, your English friend, Illegal Swede. Nick, what do you think? Have you ever watched anime? Have you watched Hellsing or Hellsing Ultimate?
No, I never watched anime.
Okay. Okay, well, I'll then answer this really quick. I think that Hellsing Ultimate is bananas and awesome. I thought that the original Hellsing, the original OVA that they did, I thought was really, really awesome, was really good. And then I went and I read the manga because I heard good stuff about that. And it turns out that... Nick, just for your background of people who don't know, Hellsing is about this Alucard is a vampire and... in this anime, and so they made this video series of it where they followed the comics like up to a certain point, and then they deviated from the comics and they kind of wrote their own ending to it. And so that the guy who wrote the comics decided that he didn't like that, so he went back and they redid it. So the first 2 or 3 episodes of Hellsing Ultimate are exactly the same as like the first 6 episodes of the original Hellsing, except that they're like a million times more violent, which seems crazy because Hellsing is a really violent comic, violent anime all on its own. But then it just goes completely and totally berserk. Like at the place where the two things split off from each other, the original Hellsing OVA went in a kind of weird direction, but Hellsing Ultimate went just completely bananas. By the end of that series, London is destroyed because of this battle that has happened there. It is completely berserk. I think that the very end of it starts to get a little bit too, I have my ultimate spectral power. Well, I've got my ultimate spectral power, and mine is better than your ultimate spectral power. But for the most part, I really enjoyed it, and I thought that Hellsing Ultimate was better than the original Hellsing. And I still think that it's a really fun show to watch. In fact, I'd like to go back and watch it all over from the very beginning because I watched them as they were coming out. So that's what I think about that. Another very quick question. Let's see here. This one comes in from our friend Carl. Carl says, "Hey Jeff, hey guys, I remember Jeff stating that he was a fan of the Boondocks. Now that the new season is a few episodes in, I was wondering what Jeff thought of the show. To me, it seems to be more on the lines of a racy version of Good Times rather than something with smart humor while providing some well thought out commentary. By the way, have either of you been watching Cosmos with Neil deGrasse Tyson? I have and love it. Keep on doing what you're doing, Carl." So, Nick, first off, have you watched any of the Boondocks?
No, I haven't actually. I keep seeing it, but being advertised, but never go around to it.
Okay. I highly recommend at least watching the first 2 seasons of the Boondocks if you got Netflix. They're both on there. It's based on a comic strip the same name, written by Aaron Magruder. And the first 2 seasons I thought had some really, really interesting and well thought out. I mean, they were intensely funny, but they also had a lot of really interesting stuff about race relation and race relations and stereotypes. And what I thought was interesting about it was that they have the 3 main characters in the show are Huey and Riley and their grandpa. And Huey and Riley are these 2 kids that have been taken in by their grandfather. And Huey is like he's like a black radical. He's all into politics and changing things for the better, and like these things are stupid, we should do away with them, and why do people act like this and whatever. And then Riley is much more representative of just kind of like straight youth culture. Like he's very much into hip hop. He's very much into kind of the trends of the time. I'm so white, Nick. It's hard to even so white. He's very gangsta. Like he's very much into that sort of stuff. He's into they've got their fictitious rapper Thuglicious and Thugnificent, and then they've got a few other hip hop stereotypes, and they do some really interesting stuff with it. And then, as I understand it, in the 3rd season, Aaron Magruder left the show. The main writer of the comic left the show, and so the 3rd season was okay. They did a lot of more parody, where they would be like, they did a whole parody of 24. They did parodies of a few other things. They had this whole subplot, whereas in the let me just look this up so I can make sure I'm not sticking my foot in my mouth. But in the first 2 seasons, they had like in the 3rd season, they had this whole let's see, Trial of R. Kelly, Granddad's Fight, Gangstalicious, Hugh Freeman Christmas, Return of the King, The Itis. Those are all real good. And so let's see what's in. Yeah, Attack of the Killer Kung Fu Wolf Bitch is a really good one. Uncle Ruckus reality shows. So in the 3rd one, Stink Meter 3, Smoking Cigarettes, Pause, Date with the Booty Warrior, Fried Chicken Flu. It's going down. Okay, so in the 2nd one, where did they have the Hunger Strike one? Okay, yeah, Hunger Strike Part 1. So I feel like in the 2nd season, there's a part where Huey goes on a hunger strike to try to shut down BET because he doesn't like BET. In the 3rd one, they have a few sections where they actually have BET being run by like this woman with she's got like a cat, or no, that might have been in the 2nd season. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting off the ball here. 3rd season, Aaron Magruder left. It was okay. There were some good episodes in there. I don't think it was as solid as the 2nd season. Season 4 so far has been, I do not like it at all. Like, it's just been very referential. They've taken the animation style and they've stylized it even harder, so it looks really weird. A lot of times the characters' faces are kind of distorting in these really weird ways. And so far, I really don't like it. I don't like what they've done with it really at all. So, yeah, that's my answer to that question. All right, our next question comes in from Dr. Alex. Dr. Alex says, Dear Jeff and Nick, I've been a longtime fan and faithful follower. This question pertains to the recent response from Nintendo regarding gays or lack of gay representation in its upcoming life simulator game, Tomodachi Life. The game allows you to fall in love, but only with the opposite sex. When asked if they would include homosexual relationships, they refused, partly because of taboo and illegality of homosexuality in Japan. Is homosexuality illegal in Japan?
Really?
I don't know about that. I don't know anything about that. Do you think the gaming industry could help lead the battle for LGBT acceptance, or will it be doomed to follow societal trends and cultures? Thanks. Thank you for your time. Keep on raging, Dr. Alex. Dr. Alex even has his phone number in this email. I'm going to call him up someday and be like, Dr. Alex, I got this rash. What do I do? So I don't know if you know about what this is. Are you familiar with this?
I don't. The only game I can think about where it allows you to be gay is in Mass Effect 3. And I thought, to be honest with you, it handled that quite tastefully. I'm not talking about the lesbian stuff. I'm talking about like the actual homosexual stuff. I think that BioWare does that a lot. I think you could do that in Star Wars Online, and then I'm pretty sure you could do that in Dragon Age as well.
And then I thought, what was it in Mass Effect 2? Didn't they actually remove that? Could you do same-sex relationships in Mass Effect 2?
Only if you were like a chick, I think. And if it was like an Asari or something. But Mass Effect 3 was the first time, at least from what I remember, where you could be a dude shep, like banging the pilots, like the guy who flies your little shuttle around.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Hold on. Let me see here. Because I'm pretty sure you could do that in the first one. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have time during this to look this up. Yeah, I don't have. I'm sorry. I can't find this out. Anyway, Tomodachi Life is a Nintendo 3DS game that is all, well, let's see, April, May, June, is coming out here on the 6th. It came out in Japan in April of last year, and it's basically a game where you bring your little Miis into the game, the little Nintendo Miis in, and then you can, like, it'll bring in other people's Miis from their games, and they can have little adventures with them and stuff like that. And you could even couple them up, and you can have little romance options and stuff like that together. And then actually, originally, they had well, people had found a way to cheat the system by making a female. They would say it was a female Mii, but then they would just make it look like a man, right? And then you could do it that way. But then they went ahead and patched that out of the game, and then they removed it from all the subsequent releases that came out. That was actually Nintendo. There was an apology that was issued where they said that it isn't possible to change the design. Such significant. Okay, I'm just going to read this quote. Unfortunately, it's not possible for us to change this game's design, and such a significant development change can't be accomplished without a post-ship patch. We are committed to advancing our longtime company values of fun and entertainment for everyone. We pledge that if we create a next installment in the Tomodachi series, we will strive to design a gameplay experience from the ground up that is more inclusive and better represents all players. Now, I don't know, that beginning part seems kind of bullshit to me. Like, they patched out a bug that let people do this in the Japanese version and changed it in all subsequent releases. It seems like, I mean, maybe the programming that you would have to do to get around that would have to be a problem, but just this idea of, the first sentence in the statement where it says, unfortunately, it's not possible for us to change this game's design, and such a significant development change can't be accomplished without a post-ship patch. Well, I got news for you. We live in a day and an age where shit gets patched all the goddamn time. Like, it wouldn't be like Nintendo has never patched a game after it came out before. But more importantly than that, I feel like Nick, we don't really talk about this stuff all that often, but I felt like this was an interesting question that I just wanted to bring up. As I think that I don't think that I was raised in a way where you're like, you stay out of other people's business. Like, do you want to get married to a dude? Cool, get married to a dude. Do ladies want to get married? You get married. Do whatever you want to. Like, do what you want to. That's not my concern. I mean, I have friends that are gay, and I think that it would be great if video games as a new medium were able to help this go forward, because I think that people should be able to do what they want to.
Absolutely, and I think like the whole RPG system where you could choose your gender and your sex preference is, like, fantastic. It makes everyone more involved with the game, and just making it all for the game makers, preference is just wrong, I think.
Yeah, well, and once again, we'll go back to something that we say quite a bit on this particular show, which is that if I feel like the biggest impact that you could make for this sort of thing is to not buy the game and try to other people that you may know who do want to buy the game, if you can convince them, if you could tell them, like, I think that this is a bad trend. I don't think you should reward them by giving them your money for this game. That generally speaking, I mean, most of these businesses, BioWare and Nintendo and whoever else, they're businesses, right? They're making money. If you can show there's a market for people who want this sort of stuff to happen, then if they can sell more copies of their game by including it, I don't see why they wouldn't. At least...
Yeah. It is happening bit by bit.
Yeah.
I think it's becoming way more accepted now in gaming.
Sure. Well, I think that, gaming a lot of times is made up by people who are younger, right? So I know that when in Mass Effect, in Dragon Age, and in Star Wars, I seem to remember in all three of those games, there was some kind of crazy Fox News article or report where they're like, holy shit, they're trying to gay our kids up, man. Look at this.
Trying to gay our kids
They're
up.
gaying the shit out of everybody. You could totally get married to a dude. Our kids are going to be confused. They're all going to catch the gay. Blah. And
yeah, oh no, not Fox News. It's not like they, actually research the shit that they actually fucking report on.
Well, but the thing is that I don't feel like that has affected any of those games. Like, I've never heard of a single person, and maybe they're out there and I just don't know. Maybe I don't see them. I firmly stand here and say my exposure to this stuff is somewhat limited, but I've never heard any...
I love how they freak out about this, but they don't freak out about, like, Glee or High School Musical becoming popular, Well, and they say that is not gaying up kids.
I've never heard of anybody say, "Oh, you know what? I was going to buy Mass Effect 3, but not now because you could totally marry a dude in there." In fact, I've never even heard, because that's the other thing about the game is it's an option. It's not like Mass Effect goes out of its way to encourage you. Like if you play, it's not like if you play Dude Shep in Mass Effect, like fucking Freddie Prinze Jr. is all over you the entire time. Like from the moment you step on the ship, he's like, "Hey, Shepard, do you want to go get a drink? Maybe, I don't know." Like,
in fact, in Mass Effect 3, it would kind of teach a young player like what to expect in life, because like I'm just having a drink at a bar, who I assume is just like a buddy, this pilot, and then suddenly he's coming on to you. You're like, oh shit, how do I let him know that I'm straight? And you have to make that inevitable conversation that you will have later on in life.
I feel like I tell you what, in talking about it, I feel like that this is a microcosm of how I feel about the entire issue, right? Is that if you're not gay and you don't want to get married to the person of the same sex, don't do that. And that's the end of the conversation for me. It's just like, okay, your religion says blah, blah, blah. That's fine. If everybody's got religions that tell them stuff that they're supposed to do and they're supposed to make other people do. As far as I'm concerned, that's not what America is about. Like, America is about giving people enough freedom to do what they want to do. And once again, there's going to be people out there who vehemently disagree with me. But in my mind, the question is, if you're so against gay marriage, then why don't you go ahead and not get married to a guy? Because I still have yet to hear an argument about how two guys getting married is messing up your world. Like,
exactly. It doesn't affect you in any way, shape, or form.
And like sometimes you hear this like, well, it cheapens the institution of marriage. And I'm like, motherfucker, go look at the divorce rate if that's where we're going with this. Because as far as I'm concerned, the institution of marriage is not exactly what it used to be anyway. But yeah, in answer to this guy's question, I don't want to get off on a tangent and get all... I don't like getting political because it just makes people come back at me with their like, you're a terrible person. Personally, quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned, if you want to give me a piece of paper that says that anybody can get married to anybody else, I say go for it. I say if you want, Nick, if you want to get married to your couch legally, I don't see who that's hurting. If you get married to your dog, I don't. Again, I don't really care. Just do whatever you want to. Like, as long as you're doing it, and
I would have a problem with that. The dog is not a consenting adult. Shit.
Well, you got to bring the dog in, and you got to see, is it obvious that if it's a person that comes in and they're holding the dog is just like, fuck, I got to get away. And if you open the door, the dog runs away as soon as they can. Well, obviously don't let those two get married, but
dude, if I could make my fucking dog talk, I think the last thing on your mind would be ask him if he wants to marry you. I think you want to ask him like a million other different questions first, before we got around to the proposal.
Well, I'm not saying, once again, that's kind of the whole crux of what I'm saying, is that I don't really want to marry my dog. Like, that's not what I'm into. But as far as I'm concerned, like, if somebody wants to do a thing with another person and they're both cool with it, you have a hard time convincing me that it's up to me to get involved and stop them or mess with them or tell them they can't do that or that's wrong or you're fucked up or blah, 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 blah. Like, there's enough in this world telling people how fucked up they are without going in and being like, you should feel bad for feeling like that. Like, who cares? Well, it's not your life. It's not what, just let people do what they want to do. And I don't know. That's kind of how I feel about it. So I think that you may have a hard time. Like, I feel like that when people using this as a flashpoint for this particular issue may be a little bit difficult because Nintendo doesn't exactly strike me as a sort of company that really gives a shit. Like, Nintendo has so far kind of proven that they don't seem to give a shit about a lot of different things that people want out of them and their company and their service. So I don't get I don't get the impression that this would be the sort of thing that would really put the screws to them. Of course, it could be very easy to fix. Or it could be very easy for them to put out a patch or something. But yeah, I mean, have you ever, like, I go back to the question before, Nick, have you ever heard anybody say like, well, I'm not going to play Skyrim. You could marry a dude and that's gay. And I don't like gay things. So I'm not going to play Skyrim. It's like, no, you play Skyrim and then you just don't do that. You do what you want to do.
Yeah, I know. I don't have any douchebag friends. So yeah, I've never had that comment.
Yeah, that's another thing to remember, of course, is that I live in Austin where we're all super hippies and hipsters and, the little liberal center and the conservative donut of Texas. But yeah, I think it's fine. I think do what you want. That's all I'm going to say. All right, got a very, very small last question. That should be pretty easy to answer because we're so long today. This one comes in from Ron. Ron says, Dear Jeff and Nick, longtime listener from the old days, all the Star Wars talk and Sequential Saturday has reawakened my love for sci-fi and especially for capital ship battles. Nothing wrong with small fighter dogfights, but I always love games and movies with the big ship duking it out, especially when they have cool, meaningful names like Forward Unto Dawn from Halo or the Executioner from Star Wars. I think he means the Executor from Star Wars. But my question is, what is your favorite capital ship? And if you were the captain of one, what would you name it? Thanks for the great content. Rage on, asshole Spider-Man forever, Ron. So what do you think there, Nick? Favorite capital ship?
In a movie or a game?
I don't know. Sky's the limit.
Okay. 2. Normandy from Mass Effect and Battlestar Galactica.
Okay. Which one's better?
Well, I guess in a way I prefer the Normandy just because the shipmates I would have, I'm much more attached to them, whereas everyone in the Battlestar Galactica are kind of douchebags. I don't know if you ever watched that show, but after a while you're like, they're a bunch of wankers, aren't they? They're all screwing each other over and stuff. But the ship is awesome in Battlestar Galactica, so... it's a toss-up between the two.
Let's see what we got going on here. I'm going to just start dumping names of stuff. I mean, obviously you can't not talk about the Enterprise and Serenity or Firefly. But some of the other ones, I really like Moya from Farscape, the living ship that's alive. I really like. Have you ever seen pictures, Nick, of the Warhammer 40K capital ships?
No.
They look like churches with like rockets strapped to the back of them. But they got all these like Gothic spires and stuff on it because all that Gothic inspiration out of the Warhammer 40K universe. So they're pretty hip looking. I'm trying to think of some other ones that are interesting. I'm looking at every so often you'll see one of these things online that's an image of like a size chart comparison of different ships. Looking at a few of those right now. There was actually a story this week that was they just put out a $99 collector's edition for Homeworld HD that's coming out. That comes with a foot-tall statue of the ship from Homeworld, which is a really cool ship. But if I had to have a single ship, I don't know. It's a good question. I really do like Moya from Farscape. She can grow her own like shuttles and shit like that. Plus, you got to have a pilot, so you wouldn't be by yourself. I'll go with that. Maybe the ship from Homeworld. Maybe the mothership from Homeworld. I'm trying to think of any other ones. I'm going to go with that. Go with that.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Well, that's it. Nick, do you have anything else that you would like to let our listeners know about?
Not currently, not at the moment.
Okay.
But thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. And for those of you at home, if you would like to get your questions on the show, mail@rageselect.com. That is mail@rageselect.com is the email address. If you've sent in a question, we haven't answered it. Could be that we didn't think that it could come on, so maybe send us another question. Maybe send it to us again. We usually do about 9 or 10 a week, and I like it when the questions all come in at the same time. Send them in on Sunday. Got a better chance that day. So, yeah, we'll get done here, and we will see y'all next week.
Goodbye, everybody.